Alright guys, welcome back to the Hunter Base Podcast. What do Maverick Hunters do when they're not hunting Mavericks? They come back to the base, recharge, and shoot the shit. I'm your host with the most, Zeromaster, and I'm back with my host, who's most verbose, Canadian Jutsu.
Plus Ultra, my friend.
Plus Ultra. Times Trace.
Times 3, yeah.
Because today we're talking about My Hero Academia Season 3!
Woo! So it just concluded, as of this recording, last week.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, last weekend was the final episode. Until we have to probably wait until, most likely, April?
Yeah, probably springtime next,
yeah.
The spring anime season next, year. Words are hard right now. But yeah, we're going to talk about Season 3. Just one thing I want to preface. I've seen the movie. CJ is going to see the movie. So we'll talk about the movie in a separate podcast episode. That will not be a spoiler-free one, and this won't be spoiler-free. So here's your spoiler alert now. Because we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. So before we start, let's just do a quick recap. So Season 1 was the I'll Make a Man Out of You season. And Season 2 was the tournament arc, the Stain arc, and the exam, not license exam, but that's now, but the exam they're to get, I guess, midterms, I guess is what it was.
Yeah, it was their midterm.
Yeah. So where we left off was just before summer break. So, basically, where like there's like a filler that didn't end up getting dubbed, just them going to the pool. It was kind of a neat episode, but it was just like a way to recap without being a recap episode.
Yeah, just sort of show everybody's character off again.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset that we didn't get to see that race though.
I mean, well, it's like, I mean, like we did sort of see some of the race, but not all of the characters raced.
I meant like the final race between
Deku and Bakugo
and Todoroki.
Yeah. That's right, Todoroki was there.
Yeah.
Besides, that's actually one thing about this season. I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but Todoroki felt, it's like, oh right, and he was there. It's just sort of the sum up thing, because this season, for all intents and purposes, it revolves around Deku, All Might, and Bakugo.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
They are the main focus of this entire season.
Which is really interesting because, I mean, Todoroki gets a little bit of focus in the last arc of this season, but like, that was the first time it was brought up since the exam.
Since the tournament, like, really,
the tournament arc. Yeah. But yeah. But let's just start in order. So the first arc is the training camp arc.
Yeah, like the class field trip.
Mm-hmm. Essentially, yeah. Let's just talk about the Wild Wild Pussycats or whatever their name is. I think they're great. I love how one of them's just like apparently in mating season quotations.
No, it's just it's not part of her quirk. It's just she feels like she's getting old, so she needs to start like finding people to maybe start a family and everything, because like these pussycats, they've been around. They've been a group of heroes for a really long time. Only a couple of them were very, very recently added to the roster. I think even then, like, they've been a group. Established wise, they had been part of the group for quite a while.
Yeah, but basically they're training these heroes these kids to use to improve their quirks, because something that Aizawa points out early on is he gets Bakugo to do the ball throw again, and it's barely improved. And what he points out is, well, we've improved, like, your ability to, like, do problem solving, and, like, we put you into situations, you've survived through some stuff. We haven't actually worked on making your quirks stronger.
Yeah,
so that's
the idea is, like, they've been working their minds and their bodies, but they haven't been working their quirks at all.
Yeah, so it's like, and you can think of your quirk like a muscle. If you're not working out that muscle, it's not going to improve. So, so that's the whole focus of this thing. And then there's that kid, Coda.
Yeah, Coda.
Who just fucking straight up punches Deku in the balls the first time we see him.
So Deku being Deku is like, wow, that kid's angry. Maybe I could be of help. And he gets a nice swift punch to the nads.
I love in the thank you letter later on, it just starts off with, "I'm sorry I punched you in the balls."
Yeah.
Right after he gets punched in the balls, I love how Ida's like, "How dare you hit his family jewels?" I love Ida. He's great. But yeah, and actually, later on, we do meet the other two pussycats. I'm kind of sad. I'll save most of this for later, but I'm kind of sad about what happens to the green-haired one, because I really liked her.
Yes. But yeah, like, out of all of them, she had the most, like, broken-ish quirk, if anything. Like, the way... Because, like, they don't really emphasize the hero cats, very much on, like, their individual quirks, but her one of being able to create, like, all types of constructs and other things like that to create. I understand why she was the one that had to be removed from the equation. Just due to the fact that, yeah, no, if she could just make constructs, then she could, like, thwart the entire villain's plot. Oh, spoiler alert, the villains are like, let's go get them.
Yeah. So they have their test of courage at night, which is that Class B basically just goes and, like, tries to, like, scare Class A, and then the villains show up.
Yeah. Before we get into that, I do want to point out one of my favorite things. I think it was from episode 2 when they were talking about their quirks, where Bakugo's training is literally sticking his hands in boiling hot water, to make him sweat more. And it's like all the unique ways that they have the characters train their quirks is probably like the most interesting thing.
Yeah, I did want to touch on that. And the thing I think that Bakugo's doing specifically is, we noticed in the last season that he can do bigger explosions, but he gets a really bad blowback from it. Like, his veins just, like, look like they're, like, popping out of his skin. So I think what he's doing is, not only is he trying to sweat more, he's using his quirk to the point where it doesn't hurt him to try and, like, increase that gap. Which I feel like he's getting there, because later on, he's able to do some pretty big explosions, and he doesn't feel the recoil from it. So,
or it's not emphasized. I don't know if he does not feel it. It's just it's not very emphasized, because like his big quirk and everything is the idea that like his grenade gauntlets are designed to stop that type of bleed back.
Yeah.
Right. Now he needs to make sure that his body's resilient to take it, but it's the idea of constantly using the quirk so your body gets used to that type of shock.
Exactly, yeah. I also liked that Todoroki was in an oil drum, and he was basically, like, making it cold, and then making it hot, and then making it cold, and then making it hot. Yeah. Like, just shooting ice and then shooting fire.
Because his thing, like, his biggest weakness of his quirk is if he uses too much of one, then it hurts him more. So he actually has to balance the amount of fire he uses and the amount of ice that he uses. And actually, it was like his biggest thing. He kept freezing himself because he used too much ice.
And actually, this, like, pays off later on, but we'll get into that when we talk about the license exam. So one thing I love is you've got Sugar Rush and you've got Momo. They're just constantly eating.
Like, yes, yeah.
And she's constantly eating and making stuff, and Sugar Rush is just like, I'm eating and getting stronger.
Well, his, like, for especially for Sugar Rush, I think his name is Sato, I believe his name is. He obviously it's the same thing. It's like as he's getting his sugar rush, then he has a downfall afterwards. He's got that droopiness, that sort of fatigue that you get after a sugar rush.
Yeah.
So the idea is for him to consume more sugar and be able to last longer and have less fatigue, right? And I like that's the thing. So yeah, it's just about them eating, and then obviously with Momo, every time she creates something, you know, it's like taking a small part of her, so she needs to sort of recuperate that energy. So get that stamina up, and the only way to do that is do what bodybuilders do, which is they consume a lot of calories and then they burn them off to a point where their bodies require more, but they don't they're able to sustain it more because
I
their
love
body is
I
used
love
to
how
that.
later on Sarah's just like, oh, so it's like pooping.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's just,
See, some of them I really like. I think about like for someone like Mina, she has to she gets tired the more acid she produces. So the idea is that she's able to use more than just her hands and her face to spit acid. Like she can coat herself in it, she can throw it and do all types of stuff. Yuga, obviously, laser beam guy needs to just not get nauseated after 1 second of using his laser beam, right? So there's a lot of things. But if I think about like, how about Koji, for example, or Koda, not Koji, Koda. I think his name is Koda Koji, but he talks to animals. I don't know how you improve that.
well,
Is it like direction?
I mean, his
Like-
biggest thing is, I think it's not his quirk that needs improvement. I think his like social skills are what's important, because the only time we heard him talk in the first 2 seasons was in the exam against President Mike.
Yeah,
That's the only time we heard him speak.
Yeah,
He's actually talking more now. He actually talks quite a
Wow.
few times in this season, which is crazy.
yeah.
But yeah, like that's his thing. I love how they put like Pro Boy in there, and it's just him yelling the entire time. Ah, Dark Shadow, come on, man! Ah,
Yeah. Well, because like it's something about the idea that because they fight one another, right?
Mhm.
Like it's if there's too much darkness, it takes over.
Mhm.
So the idea is that he has to get it to he has to make it listen to him.
I think also Dark Shadow just goes berserk when it's darker out because he has more strength. Because
Yeah.
when Dark Shadow's out and then there's lights, he's calm and he's collected and he's like a character. But like I think it's just when there's less light and there's more darkness, he just loses control. Like
Mhm.
it's not so much that he doesn't want to listen to Crowboy, it's just he just goes berserk and he doesn't know how to handle it. And I think that's what
So-
they're trying to get him to do, to make it so he can handle it a little better.
Yeah, well, what about like Kirishima, right? Like, how does he harden more? Is it like, are we talking like Metapod versus Metapod here? Like,
There is a thing, because we didn't get to see his ultimate move this season. We'll come to that soon, but it is something that I read ahead in the manga a little bit about because I wanted to see more about his character. And fuck, his ultimate move is scary. That's all I'm gonna say. it's fucking scary. But yeah, I think like that's probably the seeds of him starting to develop that here, which a lot of them end up developing their ultimate moves in the next little bit. So,
Mhm.
but
yeah, like it all in all, it's a really interesting take because a lot of the
Mhm.
times, like if you think about it, if I were to compare this to anything, like Naruto, it actually has a lot of similarities. This has a lot of similarities to Naruto, but at the same time, not to this scale,
Yeah.
right? Whereas in almost everybody, like, and this is the thing, I love Toru to death, but like, how does she be more invisible? Right? Like, there's some of these
Yeah.
things where it's like, how do you improve, which is already in essence
well,
perfection,
she
right?
wasn't really like, her job was basically to try to egg on Tail Guy.
Right, yeah. That
Um,
like he can increase his senses of others and she can hide better so people don't hear
Yeah.
her.
Well,
I think it was the idea of being more quiet or something like that.
One that we didn't get to see a lot of, but really pays off later on is Suyu's stuff, because she has to just become more frog-like.
Yeah.
And we actually get to see her new move later on. I'm like, I didn't see it coming. I'm like, oh my god, that's cool. I love you even more, Froppy.
Proper.
But yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's interesting seeing them how they do it. Like, just some things like making tape arms, just shoot tape, as much tape as he can, and then continually
Yeah.
shoot tape. Like,
Well,
I don't know.
It's like that, yeah. It's like, does his quirk produce the tape? Is there like a limit? Does he actually have to shoot tape out to stop his arms from getting cramped or something like that? That was
Yeah.
always like, these are always these things that start. And I think maybe now that I'm more hypersensitive and I'm not like awestruck by My Hero Academia anymore, I'm starting to ask a lot more questions. And for the most part, the anime is striking about an 80% explanation rate when it comes to like certain things working out or how they go about this or that, right? It's not just some magical, well, it's just chakra or it's just this, right? It's no, like a lot of the things is it's like hard works. What are the limitations that these people have?
And
just, they don't just bullshit it for story purpose reasons, right?
And just to quickly go back to your Naruto comparison, I recently rewatched Naruto's training into Sage Mode and training into controlling Kurama. Like, I recently rewatched bits and pieces of that. And it's completely different because, like, everyone in Naruto has chakra, just like, everybody in My Hero Academia has quirks. But the difference is, with Naruto, a lot of the moves are the same with a lot of people. Like, one person knows how to make a clone, 3,000 other people know how to make a clone. It's not like in My Hero Academia where everybody has their own ability. So the advantage Naruto has is you have years of experience of people learning and training these specific things. With My Hero Academia, they have to get really creative about it because everybody's quirk is different. So,
except for genetic quirks, but
yeah, no, stuff like Sharingan and whatnot. But that there's like things like that, yeah, or people in My Hero Academia who like Suyu's family in that OVA, they're all frog people. So, of course, she's a frog person. But yeah, it's that's the biggest difference, I think, is because everybody's power is unique, whereas something like Naruto, chakra is pretty much the same. It's
the chakra is the universal explanation on why everybody can do those moves. So, for example, if you take chakra away, right, then everybody has their own unique thing. Yeah. If you look at their movesets, like Shikamaru, for example, has the shadow shadow manipulation, where Naruto his is clone.
Yeah. And right? the thing too is there's natures too, so the natures play into that in Naruto's chakra and whatnot. But there's just thinking back to the sage thing, that's something that can be taught, whereas can be taught, and it doesn't matter, as long as you have some kind of understanding of how chakra works, you can learn frog sage stuff. But in My Hero Academia,
it's a little bit more complicated than that.
I know, but I'm trying to put it in the base level. You know what I mean? It's not like what you teach Uraraka, you can't teach the same thing to Deku and give them the same effect. You have to do a different way of doing it. So that's what I think is interesting about it. Not to say that's negative about Naruto. I think that's one of my favorite parts of Shippuden, is when he does the training to become a sage, and when he trains to learn use Hatakurama. But I just want to use it as a comparison of how they're different.
Yeah, they're different, but a lot of if I were to compare something, and I think my mother's basement also touched this, is that Bakugo's story mimics a lot of Gaara and Naruto's.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, but we'll get into that. But obviously, there's a difference there, but it's due to the character's character, not his arc. His arc's the same, except depending upon how you view someone's personality, it can vastly change your opinion on it.
So let's talk about the villain attack now.
Okay.
I forget the name of the squad. The something squad.
Oh, I don't particularly
remember. The League of Villains something squad. It's just a squad of some of the newer characters we saw at the end of season 2. So you've got characters like Dabi, for example, who's basically a blue fire user, which a lot of people are saying that he's like Shoto's brother, but there hasn't really been anything revealed about that. People are just assuming because he has a fire quirk.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess that's possible. You can get blue flames from mixing ice and fire, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how GLG works.
I looked it up. It's the Vanguard Squad.
Vanguard Squad, that's what they're called.
Yeah. Vanguard Action Squad.
Yeah, Vanguard Action Squad. So you got people like Dabi who can shoot blue fire, which basically lights the friggin' forest on fire that they're at. You got people like Twice, whose quirk is actually really interesting, and we get a really cool episode with him late in the season. Where he can make duplicates of people. And they have their quirk intact, but obviously it's using the multi-form technique in Dragon Ball. Your duplicates are weaker than the sum of its wholes. but that's an interesting quirk. And he's kind of got like a bipolar kind of personality at first too, which is pretty interesting. He's like their Deadpool. A lot of people have been comparing him to Deadpool.
I don't think he's as unhinged as Deadpool is. Well, like the whole thing. I mean, because it's so far removed from like the general story, I don't mind like quickly going into that episode just because it's it leads into some small things, but really it's his only thing. Like if we're going to talk about how interesting his quirk is, his whole thing was he never really was a villain originally.
He's just a guy who kept making clones of himself, and the clones...
Yeah, he made clones of himself to do other things, and after doing that, well, everybody started arguing on who the real one was and who's like, is this correct, is this right, or whatever. So they ended up fighting each other until, well, murder occurred and everybody murdered themselves. And I think for him in particular, it sort of broke his psyche a little bit.
Because he was like,
because there was one that came out, one of his duplicates came out on top, and then he was forced to kill that duplicate because he's like, I am the new you.
But he's like, at the same time, he's like, am I the real one? Like, am I the, like, whatever? And he can't really control a lot of his thoughts because he's like, every thought is like a separate person, essentially. He only feels right when he puts the mask on. Yeah.
Or like the idea of the mask is that it takes away his true identity, which is what he's in conflict with, right? But it seems that another thought process takes over his mind when he puts the mask on.
Yeah.
It's not actual twice. It's like, I guess, Deadpool-y twice.
Yeah, kind of. He takes on like a personality.
That believes that, well, murder's okay.
So then we have Gas Mask Boy.
Mustard,
yeah.
He just
is he a villain from the Dead Zone movie?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, and really, his name is so spot on because that's what it is. He pretty much just uses mustard gas.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's his quirk, is he can just make mustard gas. But his thing is he isn't not affected by his own mustard gas.
Yeah.
So he needs to wear a gas mask and everything.
By the way, that's where we get to see actually Class B do something. Handgirl and Tetsu take that guy on.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool, because Tetsu, even though his quirk is similar to Kirishima's, I still think he's cool.
Yeah. You think is he cooler though?
He is he cooler? Yeah, kind of, because he turns metal. Oh, meta cooler. Oh god.
Yeah. It is just meta. Yeah. Meta cooler.
It's meta.
Yeah, it's just meta. It's fine.
And then we have and then probably one of the
everybody's favorite, which is Toga.
Oh, I love Toga. She's great.
Toga's great. I like the subversion of what her quirk is. I thought that was a really neat thing, because at first I thought it was just like, it wasn't exactly like Stain, but like she used blood and manipulated it somehow.
I love.
Whereas it becomes even more apparent during the licensing exam arc what that actually entails.
I love that, like, because like her only real motivation is she just wants to be everybody's friend and cut people. Like that's basically who she is.
She just thinks everybody looks better when they're covered in blood.
Yeah. There is and I love her interaction with Deku, and what's his name? Million Hands Man slaps her away, and she's like, I don't like you, but I'll cut you anyways.
Yeah. Was it Koji or something like that?
I can't remember his name. Very handsy Kakashi is what I'm calling him.
Oh, Shoji. Sorry.
Shoji, yeah.
I just looked it up. Like, yeah, I know there was a G in there. But yeah, but that's the thing, is she sees Deku and she's like, my masterpiece. Like, I want this. And I think it also plays into the fact that she saw Ochako and stuff like that, like sort of fawning over him during this entire thing. I have my own feelings about her story arc, Ochiko's story arc in this, but we'll get to that.
I love in the dub when when first off, I think it's really cool that Ochako used that gunhead martial arts to her advantage. And she really
Yes,
showed that
yeah.
shit off. And it's like, damn, she's getting good at CQC.
Yeah, no, Snake would be proud.
Yeah, Snake would be really proud. CQC, CQC.
Yeah.
But I love that, like, in the dub specifically, I love the dub. I've tried to watch as much of this in the dub as I could till after the big fight in the middle when they had to slow it down. In the dub, like, she says things like, you got a nice smell to you. Are you interested in someone? she's like,
and
I'm thinking to myself, like, how do you smell love? How does that work? You know what? I'm asking too many questions here. I'm just gonna let this continue.
Yo, man, it's the gravity waves.
And then she starts getting like very like Buffalo Billy, like you like that person and you dress like them, but it's not enough. So then you gotta become them. I love Toga. She's great. And the entire time she's just there with like a big grin on her face.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think that's why a lot of people like her, because she's just one of those characters that just not only has a very, very cute and innocent, sinister vibe to her, but she is exactly what you think. She's just a preppy schoolgirl that's just like over the hill, over everything. She's very yandere. Like, that's the...
I think she would be fun at parties, except for the whole stabbing people thing. That would be weird.
I don't think the stabbing thing is a hard no for me. It's like, wow, great. Oh wait, she likes stabbing me? Oh, I don't know.
If you if you have a no stabbing party, she'd be the life of the party still.
Yeah, but she'd still be stabbing in the no stabbing party.
Like somebody said, be like, Toga, what the fuck, man? We said no stabbing. Give me that knife. Come on. And now you stabbed me. Great.
Now you're stabbing me. Oh, okay. Now I'm dying. Okay.
Or she just happens to stab the one person who doesn't die if I'm being stabbed. Like, that's a squirt or something. Be like, yeah, whatever. Just keep doing it. Didn't we had this discussion already?
Yeah. So after all that, so everybody gets separated because they're told to go off into different parts of the forest. And it looks as if Eraserhead gets himself nuked. By Dobby, a surprise Dobby attack.
When I saw that, I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, I thought they just like, because I haven't read any of the manga or anything like that, so I don't know if a character dies or they stay alive or whatever, right? So when I saw that, I was like, "Oh my god, they just fucking murdered Eraserhead!" And I'm like, if anything, he can, obviously he has his own problems with his quirk, but man, he could just limit a lot of problems that occur throughout the seasons if he actually was around during that time. So it's good that they sort of, in essence, they just took him out for like half the season. Yeah, like that's the big thing. It's like the same thing that they did in season 1 is they just took him out because he's like, man, I just made this guy have like a really crazy power. That he looks at people and their quirks.
Yeah, but even though he has a crazy power, like he's not made for drawn out combat, and we saw that in the first season. So
yeah,
like and he does well, but that's
injured him.
He does well, but that's because he's a pro. So he has to be ready for situations where he's going to be at a disadvantage. So that's why he does so well. But like until Bagak Muscly Chicken comes in and punches his face into the ground, like that's when he finally has to stop because he uses quirk. But here they're just like and just straight up trying to murder him.
Not again. But that's mostly due to the fact that we find out that Dobby is actually just a clone.
Yeah,
he's just one of Twice's clones.
Exactly. Probably the highlight fight of this arc is Muscular versus Deku. This is the first time we get to see, since the Stain fight, Deku try to use his quirk with just full cowling, and it doesn't go well because he's up against just basically a straight power character. So he makes the decision, okay, you know what? I'm going to have to use one for all at 100%, and he uses it, and it doesn't work. And his other arm gets broken in the process. So basically, he has no arms.
This is an injury that I find is very intriguing. Just I haven't like I said, I haven't read in the future. However, they seem to be pointing out that whatever happened during that fight, fuck that arm up.
Yeah.
And it is screwed up now. Like it's not like healing this Miss Kiss lady. I can't remember what her name is.
Recovery Girl?
Recovery Girl can actually fix that anymore. He's done irreversible damage to that arm. If he uses it again like that, he's just going to lose his arm. So I'm glad that it wasn't just like, oh, one more chance. No, this is a literal one more chance.
The doctor's literally like, if you do that one or two more times, you'll lose functionality in your arm. Like, you won't be able to use your arms.
And you see it. You see the damage to his arm. Yeah. Which I think is really neat, that they don't shy away from showing what he has actually done to him.
Because, I mean, after the battle with Todoroki in Season 2, he fucked his hands up pretty bad, because he was using already broken fingers to do, like, 100% smashes. And then breaking them again and again and again, like basically trying to shatter the bones in his fingers. And he wasn't using his arms as much in that fight, but like you just saw the damage his hand got. He got those two big scars across his hand, and like this is just amplified. I mean, it was really cool because we got to see a 1,000,000% Detroit Smash, but also, how's that work? Like math? What?
Yeah, math. Oh well, it's just one of those things where he's doing what he does. He idolizes and thinks, what would All Might do, rather than what should I do, which obviously gets brought up a little bit later on.
This was like, for me, I don't want to say a misstep to the series, but like when I saw that 1,000,000% thing, I'm like, that's cool. But now I'm really confused on how that works, because I'm like, obviously either he doesn't know actually how much percentage he's using, and he's just making numbers up, or somehow he had a miracle like he did in the battle with Shinso, and it just activated. Like,
well, I think I go with the first thing. There is he's just making it up. Like the idea of him actually knowing. I mean, let's just say it. Power levels are bullshit.
Pretty much,
right? Like that's the easiest answer is power levels are bullshit. He's just sort of making it up. It's a rehash of what All Might did, right? And that's where I can see where you say it's sort of a misstep, because it's supposed to put Deku in a sort of a vulnerable spot again, right? And it's supposed to also show that he is willing to sacrifice his own body to save someone, which is a noble thing. However, if you screw yourself up, you'll never be able to save anybody again.
And that's the thing, because like it goes back to
that's supposed to be entailed.
It goes back to the very first thing that Eraserhead taught him in first season. How are you going to save people if you mess up your body after just throwing a few punches?
Yeah.
And when I saw this fight, I'm like, that's really cool. But at the same time, like, I knew I'm like, this is going to do irreversible damage to him. Like, it's going to, it's stupid. I know he did it because he had no other choice, but I'm like, that was the one thing for me that I'm just like, at this part of the season, I'm like, that didn't need to happen. I feel like that could have been handled differently. And like,
because it's a lesson you'd think that he's already learned.
Exactly. I thought at this point he knows, but I guess Deku's thought is like, I don't have any other choice, so I'm gonna have to do this. But at the same time,
and that's what I'm saying. It fits into his hero archetype, which is save everybody at any cost. That even if he realizes that using that much power is going to screw him over, at least if he can save Kota, that's all that matters.
And I hear people say that this is their favorite like fight of the series, and I'm just like,
of the series or season?
Of the series. Like I've heard people say that this is their favorite fight of the series, and I'm like, okay, it's like he Kaiokened him. Like, I guess that's cool, but at the same time, just like this is dumb.
Out of the series, that includes the stuff in this season. I could give it a pass if they said this season, because a fight that comes later, I do have a little bit of problems with. outside of like the epicness of it.
Yeah.
And from there, like it's just sort of like, wow, for the series though,
Mhm.
especially when you compare to just like I still say my favorite fight personally of the series is Ochako versus Bakugo.
I think my favorite of the series, one of my favorites of the series, I don't know if it's still my favorite, was still Deku versus Todoroki, because that fight is just, there's a lot going on
it's
in
perfection
that battle.
personified. But I like the motivations in Bakugo versus Ochako again, more than with Deku and Todoroki.
Yeah.
Like they're both amazingly well choreographed, well animated, and thought out fights, but the motivations between like Deku and Todoroki versus Bakugo and Ochako is much different.
It probably also helps that the Todoroki Deku fight from season 2 is where the animation budget went.
Yeah.
Because like,
I don't know. It seems that they just have an endless bottom well of animation budget now.
Yeah. Yeah.
After season 1 and 2, they're just like, hey, season 3, every fight's gonna look awesome.
I mean, in season 2, that was the highest point. That was the highest quality Sakuga in the entire season, the entire series at that point. Because season 1 didn't have that good a Sakuga in it at any point. Like it's like they've been
didn't have very many big fights in it. Really, the only big fight that happened during that season 1 was the Nomu versus All Might. Like, if you really like, obviously there are a couple of things like in the first episode and stuff like that, but a lot of this was, just a universe building, and then it leads up to, All Might. This is like I'm gonna push myself past the limit that I'm supposed to, and my time is numbered.
Exactly.
At this point, right?
But getting back to Deku versus Muscular, one thing that I forgot to mention is Muscular is actually the villain who killed Koda's parents.
Yes.
And that brings quite a bit into the fight, and I think that's partially why Deku does what he does, because he's like, not only is this guy, trying to kill me and this kid, but he killed this kid's parents. So now I see why he hates heroes so much, because that's the whole thing with Koda. He just hates heroes.
Yeah, because they didn't save like his parents. They honored the hero lifestyle so much that it got them killed, and no heroes came and saved them. Right?
Exactly.
Which is a big thing that is like one of the overarching storylines that is sort of still looming after all the stuff that happens in season 3, is the fact that, All Might, he has always been a beacon of peace, right? He's always brought this thought of peace. So villains don't fight back because they're like, well, fucking All Might's just going to come out and get me, right? So, but that's the thing, is there is this underlining story plot of the fact that we may idolize heroes, but who saves the heroes? What happens to the people that die because of what Stain did or whatever, right? And it was sort of hinted at with Ida back in season 2 there.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing families are being separated by this type of thing, right? And I think that this is an exploration that I'm going to see going forward if it continues down that path, where it tries to explore the fact that even though you do heroic things, that doesn't mean that you're safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One other thing just to mention about the fight with Muscular is that he pretty much spills the beans of why the villains are there. They're there to kidnap Bakugo.
Yeah.
I mean, they're there to stir up shit, but that's what villains do anyway. But they're there to kidnap Bakugo, because I guess for some reason they think Bakugo is going to join them.
Well, the original thought by some of the teachers was this: they were after Deku, because they may have somehow figured out that he is the successor to All Might, because some of the teachers know, right?
Yeah.
And because of what happened at the end of season 1, they thought if they took them off grid, that they would be safe and they could be taught because they needed to figure out who the mole was. Then obviously there's more talk about the mole because they figure out where exactly they are in the forest as well. So they think they're after Deku, when in actuality, Muscular spills the beans that he's actually after Bakugo.
Exactly.
And I think Eraserhead figures that out as well. That he's like, this is really weird. Like, he wanted to find Deku, but I think he put it together that they were after Bakugo.
Deku, I think, also tells him.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yes, that's how he figures it out. Is Deku gets to him after being injured and says, "Yeah, they're after Bakugo."
Yeah. And by the way, after that fight, Deku is running on like he looks like he's had like 16 Red Bulls because like he is just like adrenaline overload at that point. And Eraserhead even says he's running on a pure adrenaline right now. He probably can't even feel his injuries. But that's still not good. But I'll let it slide this time because he's got to get that information around.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they finally meet up with the others. Also, the other villains, we've got Lizard Stain guy.
Yeah. They don't really do very much in this one. A lot of it is really focused around Muscular, and then they do a little bit of stuff with
though like
and stuff, but
Metal Beam Dude does knock out one of the Pussycat's heaviest hitters, the one who can actually make the monsters, like the ground monsters.
Yeah, the construct. She's able to make golems and other things like that.
Yeah.
And she's taken prisoner.
I'm talking about the blonde-haired one.
She's not the one that makes the constructs.
That makes all the the monsters and shit they have to fight at the start?
Yeah, I thought Ragdoll did that.
No, she does that. Blonde hair does that.
Oh, okay.
Ragdoll has a different quirk. I don't even know what her quirk is. I forget. She gets...
Oh, right. She has Search.
Yeah, Ragdoll...
She's got that weird thing where she's able to, pinpoint people with 100% accuracy or whatever. She can monitor, 100 people at one time.
She gets straight up, fucking... It just shows, a table where her blood is. She gets fucking straight up jacked.
Yeah. She, like we said, she gets kidnapped. She's the one that ends up getting kidnapped.
Yeah.
In the end, because they don't. Do they succeed? Is that the one where they succeed in Bakugo? Or is that later on?
Were they what?
When they capture Bakugo, is that later on, or do they actually capture him in this arc?
They do capture him in this arc. But what happens is there's stuff that happens in between. So they're kind of at a stalemate because Lizard Stain is fighting the one Pussycat who can read people's minds and shit and put thoughts into people's heads.
Madale.
Yeah, and she's the one that tells everybody it's okay to use their quirk if they come in close contact with the villains. Except Bakugo, who's supposed to stay away, and he's just like, fuck that.
Yeah.
And then there's I love how one of the people that Deku first runs into is what's his name again? Mass Dude?
Oh, Shoji.
Shoji, yeah. And basically he carries him because it's faster that way. And the reason he runs into him is because he was running away from Crow Boy because Dark Shadow went berserk. And
they use that to their advantage.
They actually have a really clever plan because there's a dude who has blades for teeth or something.
Yes,
who finds Todoroki.
I called him Valdo because he had he's all in a straitjacket and it just comes out of his teeth.
Mm-hmm.
But he's able to make metal out of his bones.
Yeah. And he finds Todoroki and Bakugo, and they're all fighting. And then Deku has this ingenious idea. Wait, let's lead Dark Shadow into another villain, and then when we happen to find Bakugo and Todoroki, we'll use their ability to shine light to take control of Dark Shadow again. So Dark Shadow just fucking upright destroys Metal Teeth guy. Just fucking beast. I think he slams the shit out of him, and then
it breaks all the metal and everything too. It's actually brutal. It's one of the most brutal things in this season. I remember
fucking go
correctly.
Dark Shadow, man. Like, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah, super powerful, but need control of that. It's
Yeah,
very
he
important.
should do some training with Killer Bee so he can learn how to control it.
No, he just needs to yell more.
Exactly. And then I love how they're less like after they beat the villain, they're like Bakugo Todoroki now, and they're just like, oh, okay, and they like shine light, and Dark Shadow goes like, okay, bye.
Yeah, and like that, one thing I like about that is it's showing that Class 1A knows each other at this point. Like it's no longer them trying to get to know one another. They understand each other's quirks to at least a basic degree, and they work in tandem with one another.
Yeah, because one of the things about Shoji is he talks about how like when he came in contact with Dark Shadow, only one of his extra limbs got taken out, not one of his main ones. So, and because he used that to try to find a way to escape and try to find a way to get to him when he meets up with Deku. And then there's this moment where all of them meet up and they're talking about like what's happening, and you just see Bakugo in the back, like confused and looking at everybody like, what? Huh? What? You're talking about me? What? and then of course he doesn't cooperate. But around this point they do eventually run into Froppy and Uraka, and that's when Toga just bails because she's like, fuck this, I'm not gonna die tonight.
There's way too many people here.
And then she sees Deku for a second and she's like,
my love.
Basically. Yeah.
And
she's all smiles for the rest of that episode until she has to fight Shoji and says she'll cut him anyways. And then they just realize, guys, where's Bakugo?
And then Mr. Compress has done his magic on Bakugo.
Yeah. And then it basically boils down to a lead fight back into the main area, where Warp Dude shows up and they all go to leave, and they actually get several times they get the little
orb with
marbles.
Bakugo in it.
Yeah, with Bakugo in it, but it eventually gets back. He's also captured Crowboy. So in the end, they end up saving Crowboy, but at the last minute they get away with Bakugo.
Well, didn't they have like I thought there was something about like because like I remember the shot of him being held by his neck and brought in, because that means that Decay guy, I can never remember that villain's name. It's like Shido something. Is it Shido or is it as I like?
Who are you talking about?
Wasn't there
the
guy that has the decay hands? Tomura.
Yeah.
He's there in the end, isn't he? Because he grabs him by the back of the neck and says, "If you come near me, I'll incinerate him or whatever."
Yeah, and as they're leaving, like Deku's running out and being like, "No, Kachan," and then Bakugo's like, "Stay away, Deku."
Yeah,
stay away. I think at this point Bakugo knows,
because at that point Bakugo understands that it was his fault.
Yeah, Bakugo's like, "There's nothing that can be done. Just stay back. Don't."
I don't need to be saved by you again.
I think it's more so. I know it's not Bakugo's style. I think it's more so. There's nothing you can do. Just stay back. Because like, if anything, Deku getting close risks not only damage to Bakugo, but him getting hurt as well. So they're just like, whatever, and the villains escape with Bakugo, and that basically is the end of that arc. Until they go to the hospital.
Everybody really, in essence, defeated.
Yeah,
they won. The villains won again.
Yeah, exactly. So, when everybody's being healed up and in the hospital or whatnot, most of the class members discuss what's happened, like what to do. Some of them want to go save Bakugo. Obviously, like Hiroshima feels guilty that he wasn't able to participate in trying to save his friend at all. Because he's like his bro.
He was knocked out by the mustard gas, eh? Like him
no, he was in remedial classes. Remember, he failed.
Oh right, yes, that's why like Mina and some of the others weren't there. Yeah, they were stuck in the building.
Yeah, they were in remedial classes. Which, by the way, the only person who failed in class 1B was Mr. Steel Power, who's like, oh, so many people in Class 1A failed. How embarrassing. And yet he's the only one who failed in Class 1B.
I am done with that guy, by the way. Like, I understand what his purpose is, but, like, he hasn't changed at all.
And it's like, bro, you're not fooling anyone.
Yeah,
like,
you're not, like, I don't understand. Are you supposed to be cool or something? I don't understand.
And they're all just like, this guy's just like, they don't even give him the time of day. But yeah, like Hiroshima specifically after that, he's just like so caught up with it. He's like, I didn't even have a chance to try to help my friend, to save my friend. Because they're like bros now. As much as Bakugo doesn't want to admit it, him and Kirishima are bros. And it's just it breaks him. And Deku at the same time is like, I want to save him. This is something that we forgot to mention. Momo actually, with another person from Class B, they get run into a Nomu because they brought a Nomu with them too. And she puts a tracking device on them. She gives the information and like a tracker to All Might and some of the other heroes. But she also mentions to the other classmates that she could probably make another tracking device. So a bunch of them want to go help. But a bunch of them are like, we shouldn't be doing that. And in fact, there's one line that I didn't think was that important until later on, is where Froppy says, you know, you guys going to try to save him to go against the rules of the heroes, pro heroes, would be just the same as like a villain trying to break the rules. And that didn't really stick with me until later on when they bring it up again.
Though, her, like, in that essence of what we'll get to it a little bit more, the reason why she cries is a different reason than what you think it is, which I think is really interesting. And I think that's the crux of what being a hero and being a villain, the difference between a hero and a villain. Even though you may be doing villainous things, in the process, you're actually being more of a hero than you could ever be before.
And that's the thing too, like, because this was brought up at the end of the Stain arc in Season 2. The reason that they couldn't publicly say that the three of them had defeated Stain is because of the backlash that could potentially come with that. And they also broke the rule. They broke the law. Because they weren't supposed to use their quirk in that kind of situation. They're
just not allowed to use their quirk at all, unless it's like a physical quirk. Like someone for example, Mina, or like what's his name? Totomaki, like they just can't help but, you know, not look human.
I think it's also like they weren't supposed to use their quirk without the permission of the heroes that they were doing an internship with. I think the heroes that they did the internship with, because Earphone Jack in the second season uses her quirk a whole bunch to find those hostages. So she was probably given permission by I don't remember his name.
Well, but you have to understand in Season 2 that they were under the tutelage of pro heroes. So in that essence, it's not like an everyday thing. She wasn't just using it out in the open without supervision.
Yeah, no,
right?
that's what I'm saying. Because the whole reason they're saying they broke the law is because they went out of their way to fight a villain with their quirk, and they didn't have permission to use their quirks to do so. So that's why they had to keep that private. And I think that's what the whole thing is, especially with Ida, because he tries to stop them and say, look, we got in trouble for this last time, and even though it worked out, it wasn't the right thing to do. So I'm here to stop you. And of course, he can't stop them, so he's like, well, if you can't beat him, join him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the idea is like he was going along to prevent them from exceeding the idea. Like, right? The idea was, if I say you exerting your quirk, I'm going to stop you. That was his whole purpose with going, was to stop them, but he wanted to make sure that they were safe too, so he went with them. And it's the same thing that Momo did as well, is she shared his sentiment, but at the same time she understood the greater good that could be done by saving these people. She saw the convictions of and this is something that gets touched on at the end of Season 2 there with her, is like, she's very indecisive, and we see her growth because of these events.
Exactly.
The idea is that when we know something is right and we do nothing, or we think too much about it, bad stuff happens more often than not.
So there's a little ragtag group of them. There's Deku, There's Kirishima. Obviously, we talked about Ida and Momo tagging along. And then Todoroki tags along. I don't quite know why he came with them, but
I just think it's really interesting. This is why I'm saying is like a character that you forget about, that he's actually kind of important to a lot of things. And it's the same thing with this. Like, he goes because he shares Deku's sentiment. The guy that opened his eyes, he's sort of saying, well, we could, if he feels it's okay, you know, it's the same way that he had the same thoughts and feelings.
It's almost
right?
like after the fight they had in the second season, that it kind of just made Todoroki like too mellow. Like he's going with this because Deku wants to go save Bakugo. And he's
he
just
shares
like, well,
the
that's
value.
The right
he shares Deku's value there.
Yeah, you know, exactly. And actually, something we forgot to mention in the last arc, he did mention, you know, when Deku was talking to him about, you know, what should I do to turn Kota around? I'm trying to think of what All Might would do. And he's just like, you got to be careful with that, because not everybody is me, where you can turn me around just by, you know, yelling things at me in a fight. You can't just, you know, you can't win people's hearts over the same way. You've got to, you know, you've got to use the right approach. And he basically just says to drop it because he thinks that it's a, you know, it's a lost cause at this point. He doesn't like you because you're trying to be a hero. You're not going to convince him otherwise.
Yeah.
And that was
unless
that's one thing
you think outside the box. Like, he's like, if you think outside the box, you're not going to do it with the normal you.
Exactly. But yeah, like him joining was just basically, I just think because has one of the more powerful quirks, and they probably could have used him.
Yeah. So in the end, it's Todoroki, Kirishima, Momo, and Deku, and Ida.
And I think one of my favorite scenes is when they go get
disguises.
Just before that, I love how Deku does this thing where he crosses his arms around his head. He's like, yeah, incognito mode. And they're just like, you're even more conspicuous when you do that. Yeah. And then they get, I love how they get like, I love their costumes and like the personalities they pick. Deku's just like a street punk.
Yeah.
And he's just like,
it's interesting because they all take the archetypes that are plagued in like Japanese mobster movies and stuff like that. Like, clearly these are a bunch of kids that watched, you know, Japanese mob movies and thought, this is how cool
I love how, yeah, but like Deku's like a street punk and he tries to like be like, get out of my way, fool, like shit like that. And then like Ida is the most out of character because he's playing the dapper guy, and he's like, let's go out and get a bunch of girls, and he just yells it like that. I'm like, Ida, you stick out like a sore thumb, please stop. And then I just love Kirishima's just like, I actually just prefer my hair this way, it's kind of cool. Yeah. And then Momo's just like, I just want to go shop.
Yeah, this is why I like Momo's character quite a lot, is like she's supposed to fit the rich girl stereotype, but it's just her simplicity, right? Just like, this is an excuse to go shopping for her, you know, like her girliness shows.
Yeah.
When a lot of the time she's super serious, she's top A student. It's the reason why a lot of people like, you know, like the quote unquote student council president that it also has like some like weird quirk, or they don't understand love, or they don't understand this, right? Where her, like, she's just excited to serve her friends tea.
Exactly.
You know?
That was
it's
great.
Like her favorite thing, and she wants to share it with people.
And lastly, Todoroki's like, I don't feel like I'm in disguise. he's wearing a wig.
He just has a wig on. Yeah, he wears something else too.
And I love, like, right after that, he's like, couldn't you just make these costumes? She's like, well, we have to put money back into the economy. I can't just make everything. He's just like, oh, rich girl just wanted to go shopping.
Yeah, girls just want to go shopping. Yeah. Todoroki he's the low-key straight man of the group.
So basically, at the same time while they're doing this, the pro heroes are getting together, specifically some of the tops, like All Might, Endeavor, Best Genius, who's the number 4 hero, and a whole bunch of other heroes like Kamui Woods and
even Mount Lady,
and
like pretty much all the
Gran Torino's there, like a pretty, like, a lot of these heroes that we saw before, and some new ones that we get to see in action. So, but just jumping back real quick, so they know from intel where the villain's hideout is, And Deku's crew, because of the whole, tracking thing, they know where
the
the
Nomus
Nomus
being
are,
made.
but they think that the Nomu goes back to their base. They find this whole factory where Nomus are being made. They're like, "The fuck is this?" Like, they're just like, don't know how to process it. And the thing that that sucks about that is, as they're discovering this, the heroes are going to the villain's hideout, knock on the door, FBI open up and break through the place to try to save Bakugo, who just moments earlier got his restraints released. And then one of my favorite lines of the season was like, "So you want to join us?" He says, "Go play in traffic."
Yeah, go jump into traffic. Yeah.
And this is one of those things, like, this is what was interesting, because I knew what was going to happen because I read a little bit ahead in the manga, and I had friends at work who were just like, they were watching it as a group. They're like, "Oh, we're really worried that Bakugo's going to go the Sasuke route and everything." I'm just like, the entire time I'm like, "Don't say it, Clayton. Don't spoil it."
Don't say it.
And then,
don't say it.
when
I already knew because I understood Bakugo's character. I'm just like, no way he's going to turn evil. This is not anywhere close. If anything, he's going to spit in their face.
I know. And needless to say, my friends were really excited when he didn't go that route. I'm like, guys, it was fairly obvious. Like, Bakugo's not that kind of character. He's wants to be the best. The difference with Sasuke is he already was the best. He just, when other people got better than him, he got jealous.
Sasuke threw a hissy fit.
Mm-hmm. Whereas Bakugo is a little deeper than that, which we'll get into soon. So
and his ideology as like to aspire, right, is both him and Deku look at All Might, right, in two different ways.
Let's not get into this until we talk about their fight.
we have to, because it plays into this fact that it's been around since season 1 and 2. Like, if you pay attention to season 1, he loves All Might because All Might always wins. Right? And Deku likes him because he can save like hundreds of people, like from a car wreck or a train wreck, right? And it fits into them. So he's not going to let a villain that captures him persuade him into joining when he wants to win, because that's what he's been doing since the very beginning. Every problem that he has ever faced up to this point, he's won. This is the first time where he's ever actually, quote unquote, technically lost, but even then, he's still fighting. He's still fighting to win. It's just part of his character.
So the heroes get there, and then they try to get warped out, but Warp Guy is pretty quickly dispatched. So they warped a different way. And while this is happening, they the other heroes found their way to where the Nomus are, and friggin' All for One wakes up and is just like, "Yo, get off my property."
Yeah.
And Best Jeanist
property, get off my flipping property.
And Best Jeanist eats shit and is just like, huh.
I'm amazed he's not dead.
Yeah, apparently he's not dead.
He's not dead. Like, I mean, I guess, like, we're jumping a little bit ahead here because he has a couple more 1-ups against All for One. But it's so funny because it's like, he should be dead from what it looked like, what happened to him.
Yeah, he gets fucked. Like,
he gets screwed up.
Like, All for One jacks his shit. Like, he like, if he's alive, he's at least gonna be in the hospital for a long time.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, what happens, because we don't hear from Best Jeanist again for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no,
after this.
Actually, almost all the pro heroes that were in that part.
Yeah. So the other villains realize, oh shit, they're not here, they're at the other location. Or they've been transported to the other location. So they get transported there, including Bakugo. And so they're all in the same location, and now it's Bakugo against all these villains in an open area. Meanwhile, our ragtag group of
because they were originally going to assault the Nomu place. However, the pro heroes were already ready for this, so they had already gone and attacked. And I think All Might was there during he was in the Nomu place, but then he goes to the villain hideout because of All for One showing up.
No, he was at the hideout and he goes to the Nova place. Yeah, that backwards.
Oh, yeah, it's backwards?
Yeah.
Right, yes, because All for One is in the Nomu place, right?
And that's where, like, let's just say All Might loses his shit a little. Because it's All for One. It's this guy that we've heard so much about, that he's warned Deku about and all these things that you're going to have to fight someday. And here he is. This is what, at least what the series wants us to make us believe, this is the big bad final boss kind of thing.
Yes.
Like, and they start referring to him as final boss. Like, even Bakugo's like, that final boss guy. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is a representation of what the old guard's final, like, you know.
Yeah, like, their climax, their final dungeon, final destination, no items.
Yeah.
Fight is.
Yeah. So, this fight is fairly important, the one between All Might and All for One. Though, as this is going on, Bakugo's still fighting off all the other villains. So, Deku hatches this plan that it looks kind of silly the way they put it together.
But this is what I want to call the like in fighting games terms, they call it pop off, where when something crazy or someone wins, they hop out of their chair and it's just like insanity. This will always be. It's the same thing that I always call like a good comparison for me personally as like an anime fan, and this is why I hold Naruto in a high regard, because it was the one out of the big three during that time when I was sort of watching anime, but you know, it's like I would watch Inuyasha or Dragon Ball and Pokemon, but they weren't incredibly resonating with me where I got quote unquote the anime hype, right? And in the Zabuza arc, when Naruto turns into pops out and he's the shuriken that Sasuke threw, right? That's a pop off moment to me. That's where the audience that hasn't read the manga, fine, you know, has never seen something so well like choreographed and planned out, but it wasn't like spelled out for us. It wasn't told to us how the plan was. And this is the interesting thing, because Deku does explain it while it occurs, but at the same time, to see it work and to see some of the extra things that even Deku didn't plan for occur, right? And this is where if I was watching this anime and I wasn't expecting them to save him, where I looked and I was like, that's the pop-off moment for me. When they save Bakugo, when all of it comes together, and obviously the animation sells it too, as well as the voice actors. I've listened, I haven't watched a lot of the English dub, but I've watched the Japanese and the English version of this fight arc, I guess, to say. Yeah. And both of them do a fantastic job of this.
So they use their quirks to go up a super slide that Todoroki makes. And one thing that's interesting about this entire thing is Deku says, Hiroshima, you're going to be the one to call out to him. Because if I do it, he won't come to be. Just him basically
he won't listen. Yeah.
Just basically him basically saying, you're closer to him now than I am. You're his bro. If you call out to him, he'll come to you. And that's what they do. That's the whole reason Kirishima in that thing. Because Deku and Ida and that, really, they're just the push-off. Because Deku
they're the Rockets.
Yeah, they're the Rockets. And Kirishima
the
calls
Rockets
out.
To the Kirishima rocket.
And then Bakugo slides into the DMs.
Oh, dude, that yell is so good. And obviously the angle and everything like that.
You idiots! I love that when he grabs his hand. He's just all smiles.
Yeah. I always have to point out the main villain's like, why does he keep showing up everywhere? Like, just this idea that he has already made it, so Deku is like, he fucking hates this kid.
Yeah.
Because every single time he tries to do something, Deku gets in the way. He doesn't care that Bakugo got away, right? He doesn't care that something happened. He's caring more along the lines of, how is this fucking possible? This kid is my arch nemesis. Even though Deku doesn't even register that.
Yeah.
To the same degree, I guess.
At least not yet. I'm sure
Oh,
something
obviously.
will
I'm
happen.
sure that, as it progresses.
So they get away. Of course, Deku, with all plans, doesn't think about how he's going to land. So we have no idea how they end up landing. So Momo and Todoroki slip away while they're
See,
all.
that was the only misstep of that. Now that we're sort of recounting it and thinking about it, is like everybody was important except for Momo in that one.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Like
she had the tracker, so
I know that was her biggest purpose for being there, and she said that she would only go with them if they took her with them.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing that we didn't mention, and why she was there was because she was like, I made the tracker, but I'm not just going to give it to you. I'm going to come too.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't go, then you don't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the thing is, like, during that entire plan, like Todoroki making the giant ice thing, having Kirishima stick his arm out, and Ida and Deku being the propulsion for him. But Momo, that was it. It's not like she created a stick or something that Kirishima could stick his hand out so Bakugo could, like, grab the stick. It felt like she was just sort of was there.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't important to the actual of saving of Bakugo compared to all the other guys, right?
So, yeah. So let's get onto what many consider probably the highlight of the entire season.
Yeah.
I mean, me personally, it's another part, but this is a big part of the season. The fight between All For One and All Might. And the fact that the first time the public sees Small Might, basically.
Yeah.
Or,
Shovel Might.
Or,
whatever,
whatever his, I can't remember his name now, his actual name.
It starts with a T.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
What's his name? Says, Toshinori.
Yeah, Toshinori.
We get to see, and like the world sees him as not All Might, which they've never seen him as because he always sold himself as All Might. And he would say, avoid talking about his quirk and stuff like that. So people didn't know really anything about him. And now they're saying, oh, this is who he really is. And realizing that he's out of power and that One for All is leaving him. I think the best.
Well, they don't know that.
Yeah,
the people
they don't know
that.
But he's like, him and All For One are realizing, yeah, your quirk's running out, your power's running out. You're not going to be able to use it for much longer. And I think the best reaction.
You 30 seconds to get here. You're really slowing down there, All Might.
I think my favorite reaction to it was Endeavor's, because he's like,
yeah.
"What is with that form, All Might?"
Yeah.
He's just like that. You could see in his eyes like the defeat.
Yeah, the crippling.
Yeah, the
crippling understanding about the difference between him and All Might.
Mm-hmm. So the other heroes come to help him out, to buy him a little bit of time, and All Might currently can only use One For All in certain parts of his body. Like, it's that weak now. So, and he's about to give up, but there's one person behind him who's like, you can do it. Please save me.
Well, she's reaching out. She's like, please save me. Like, we have to you were jumping a little forward there. During this, he's trading blows for blows with All For One. And we learn that the main villain, the guy that has the decay for hands and everything like that, is actually the previous All For One's son or grandkid. I can't remember which one it is. The one that originally held, like, before All Might, the previous owner of One For All. Was her grandson or her kid or something like that. I think it was her grandson.
Yeah.
And he adopted him after he accidentally, I guess, murdered his parents with his quirk. And he has molded him into a supervillain to take on his legacy, like how, like, All For One or One For All is passed on, right? Like, the idea of legacy, it gets stronger. He's like, I'm going to take my ideology and put it in to, someone that you would never suspect, right? Or, like, because, what's more twisted of a villain to do? And he even says that, where like he's All Might originally is like, no, I don't believe you. You're just lying. He's like, but really, All Might, you really think that I wouldn't do that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then that sudden realization, it's taking the hope out of him, right?
Mm-hmm.
That even if he somehow is able to fight against this guy, his ideology, his beliefs, his evil will continue on through his predecessors and like the woman that he respected the most in the world, from what it seems like, you know, has been twisted and corrupted. That this is what evil is, that he can't defeat it, right? And that's where that's what All Might's like motivation gets crushed, because the idea is like what he believed, that he could smite out this type of evil, that this evil has just found a new way to distort the ideology of his mentor and of himself, which is what makes his ideology flawed. Because even if you try and snuff it out by just being the most courageous or being number one, right? By making people believe that they are safe, even the people closest to you are never safe. And that's the flaw in All Might's philosophy, and that's why for that split second he gives up. Or not gives up, but he has the fear that he may not be able to push it to the limit. But then, like you said, the woman behind him, she hasn't lost hope in him. He may have lost hope in his cause and what he believes in, but she looks to him not just because she needs to be saved, that if he fails, she dies, but also the fact that other people still believe, even when he looks the way that he does, right? And that's where all hell of animation breaks loose, and we're treated to arguably some of the most amazing animation that has come out of anime in the last little while.
This is one of those things that a lot of people, like Anitubers and stuff, bring up with the first 2 seasons of My Hero Academia, is that Studio Bones is known for making these crazy good, like, overly animated sequences. Like, just look at Mob Psycho 100. Like, how fucking crazy the animation gets in that show. They're known for making these big spectacles. With My Hero Academia, they've been very tame about it, because I think they knew when they started it was going to be an ongoing series for them, which is not something that Studio Bones does that often. So, this was one of those moments where they're just like, fuck it, take the Sakuga budget and just like ram it into this episode.
Yeah, but it's not without purpose, and I think that's the good thing. Like the problem with Mob Psycho is some of it is spectacular and crazy. Things like like you also look at something like Kill la Kill, for example, or Gurren Lagann, right? It's they have these big spectacles of things, but they don't have the impact that is not just like the physical impact, like the punch or whatever. It's the emotional, like that All for One, like with that final punch that he does, where the animation gets rough and powerful and it goes into a blinding light. It's like he's used the last bit of his energy to just destroy All for One, you know, like just to use that final bang. And then obviously the animation rests, it goes dark because the light and all that power has been diffused, and then it goes back to a regular traditional animation.
And
like,
I knew
that to me is interesting animation, not just like, look at this character that's upside down and he's like jagged for no reason because they want to accentuate a finger point or other things like that. It's animation with purpose.
I knew when I first saw United States of Smash in the manga, and it took up an entire 2 pages, that this was going to be like probably where they put the budget in the animation for that attack. And of course, it's fucking awesome. Like, because we finally get to see All Might's ultimate attack, and this is the last time the one and only time we're going to be able to see it, because this is it.
And what does it do? It actually subverts, because we think that now that they've introduced All for One, that this is our main antagonist for the rest of the anime and the manga, right? You think he's going to be the big baddie. They've been hinting at him for 2 seasons, and this is the guy. And then they subvert expectations by being like, nope, All Might, though, he didn't die. He actually beat him.
Mm-hmm.
He actually beat him. And obviously there is a lot more to unpack, like just within the world and everything and what he represents. Obviously, like I said, with the whole thing with his protege, like he's done what he needs to do to destroy the perfect world that All Might thought he created.
Mm-hmm.
Or was trying to save or to keep from the masses. But even then, it's like you're not expecting, like when I originally, like when we were talking, like when we were originally watching the series before I got to season 3 and like sort of like sussed out where the story was, and like I said, now that that sort of like the foggy glass of being excited about a new anime that's got spicy animation and everything. Whereas in this was like if All Might had died there, it would have been a cliche and it wouldn't have been as impactful, right? It would just be like, oh right, yeah, there's another sacrificed hero. Because if you look at the first couple of seasons and you're not really paying attention, it seems as if it's gonna go that way. Like, how does Deku become the true hero? He loses All Might. Now, not to say that they still can't kill All Might, like later on down the line, even if the manga isn't even there yet.
I mean, especially since All Might keeps talking about, this happened a little later on in the season, talking about how he won't die. Like, he says it, he talks about it a lot, especially when All for One comes up. I have a feeling that they're going to put something in that
I hope he never dies. Oh, like, I mean, obviously he's going to die because he's old, and he is, like, I believe that he should die of natural causes, not like the villains try to kill him to get at Deku or something like that. I don't want that for All Might, because his idea is like, I can't die yet because I need to fucking reprimand my student for being a little shithead, for going against everything all the goddamn time, right? You know, using his powers to destroy and hurt himself, to use them out in public without thinking of the ramifications, putting himself in danger, for silly reasons, right? Though he idolizes that part of him, he realizes that he needs to do something to stop Deku from just completely and utterly killing himself. And that's what he is. He survives because he needs to reprimand Deku, and he needs to teach him more.
Exactly.
And the same thing goes with Bakugo and all the students, all of his students, which I think is really neat. And I have a feeling that that's a good role for All Might to be now. I mean, he is the quote unquote heroics teacher at UA. I don't know what that entails, but at least we know that, like, President Mike, he's the English teacher. Like, we know that, which was a funny little segue that happens later. But, like, that's the thing, is this fight was so important on just like a storytelling level, though I feel that some of it either is a little rushed, where I don't know how I could, like, I don't know how I could make it better.
It's right? One of those things is like, I feel how you feel, like it could have been better, but I have no idea how you would make it better. And I think that feeling of it being rushed is because they wanted this to be the spring, their spring season finale, even though the My Hero Academia seasons are long enough to go over the spring and summer anime seasons. So I think that's what they wanted. Before the new anime started, they wanted to have a big bang so people would keep watching to see what would happen next.
Yeah. And maybe that's probably why it doesn't feel as impactful, because it's not even we're not even halfway through the season yet at this point. And that's crazy that we had, like, what would be considered an end of anime fight or like an end of a season fight happens in the midsection.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing about this season, but we'll get more into what they do later on once we get into it. But it does definitely feel like an end of series, end of season kind of thing with that fight. And really, it's just the end. Like in the manga, this happens just before the 100th chapter. So, because the 100th chapter I think is called Goodbye Double Digits, Hello Triple Digits, or something like that. It's a generic name. And that's when the next thing comes in. Like, this is, I don't know if this is the 99th chapter, but it's getting close. It's in the 90s. They're getting close to 100 chapters at this point. And that's why it happened the way it did in the manga. But but honestly, I feel like that's why we got it when we did, was because it was the end of the spring anime season, and they wanted people to continue watching for the second half of the season in the summer anime season. So, that's probably why they did it there.
Yeah. There is just there's something nagging me, and like I said, it could just be maybe like you sort of get out of that battle high where you feel like this is the end, but it really isn't. It's like its impact is incredibly important, but it's minimized by the fact that it happened so soon. Right? Like, yes, it's going to change and alter. Like, you think about all the things that happen in that fight and all the ramifications and new story threads that come up from it, because the whole thing where now the world knows what All Might looks like, what Small Might looks like, and then you see the look on Bakugo's face when he sees Deku crying, when he's pointing to the camera and saying, "It's now your turn." And though that could mean obviously all the other heroes and the people around him, he's really speaking to Deku, because he's the one that has all for one, or one for all. He's the only person that will keep the torch going.
Exactly.
That he has to step up and be the hero that he is now. And then obviously with Bakugo, it affirms the fact, which he had already suspected very early on, that something that was happening between, I mean, Todoroki figured it out very fucking quickly. Though he doesn't know the specifics, you can tell that he's like,
I love that
did
season too.
something
He's
for
like,
you.
"Are you like All Might's child or something?"
Yeah, right? Is he knows there's something there, but he doesn't know like the specifics. And this, I think, reaffirms to Bakugo that he's like, All Might there's something between them, that his powers and everything that links together is important in the long run. Like, this is what I'm saying, is like it creates so many new possibilities, like what the world will do now. And it changes the dynamic of, with Endeavor becoming the number one hero, with a title that he feels that he has not earned.
And he takes it very well. He just destroys all his like equipment in his house because he's just like frustrated. He's like,
and now they're worried that the number one hero is Endeavor. Like the world worries.
Yeah, there's like debates on the news and shit. They're like, I don't think Endeavor makes a good choice for hero. He's definitely got the power, but he's not the same as All Might. He doesn't really care about blah, blah, blah. But yeah, the world is kind of at a point where they're like, well, we don't have All Might anymore. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, what do we do? And
that kind of gets addressed in the next arc. But before we hop into that, the next thing that happens is, so they have a meeting at the school about that there could be a mole. And
which they had already suspected, but this almost confirms the fact that like the villains just know what's happening.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where they're like, they make a decision, well, the students are in more danger being out of our sight than not being, because at least if there's a mole, we can still keep an eye on them and see what's happening in our own home. So they make the decision that they're going to make dorms, and all students from there on are going to be living in the dorms while going to UA. Because UA, as high security school as it is, they can't control what happens outside the school. And I think now they realize that we're at the point where we can't do this anymore. We have to protect our students on top of, not just protecting ourselves. Because they're part of this school too. So the decision is made that they're going to do dorms. Now, the interesting part is the next thing that happens is getting all the parents to agree to it. And it pretty much goes well with everyone, though some of the interactions are really cool, and I want to talk about that, like Jiro's interaction. Jiro's family. His dad's like, no way! I'm not sending my kid to live there with you guys and stuff. And then Jiro comes up and be like, you were saying a minute ago about how cool it was that I was going to get to live there. He's like, don't, I'm trying to dad.
Yeah, I'm trying to dad. Yeah.
And she has a shirt that says deep dope and it points down. That's the thing, like, Billy and I were just like, dude, it says deep dope and it's pointing down. What the fuck does that mean? And I'm just like, I think Horikoshi likes English words and putting them on things.
Yeah.
I don't think he's talking about her vagina.
Oh, God.
But yeah, that was a cool interaction. Bakugo's family.
Oh, my God. Yes. His mom is amazing.
Bakumom's awesome.
Yeah.
And we can see
where female Bakugo, but she's still a mom.
And strangely attractive. Like,
yeah. Oh, obviously,
and that's
Bakugo where is a fine looking man.
And that's where Bakugo gets all his fucking rage. His dad's just like, okay, guys, settle down.
Yeah, his dad
like, fuck
is
you,
like,
dad.
He's so like a fucking sub. He's bottom boy.
He is bottom boy.
He's bottom boy for sure.
But just like how Bakugo's like, fuck you, dad.
Don't treat your father that way.
And it's funny because they thought, like, because it's All Might and Razorhead going to do all these interviews, and they thought this was going to be the hardest one to convince, but they're just like, no, you guys, you guys not only saved, my son, you also proved that he has no intention to become a villain, that he's trying to work hard to become a hero, and that she even admits outright, be like, he grew up with an amazing quirk, so people just start telling him he was amazing, and it made his head big. So now I'm glad that he's going to a school where he's not king of the class, and he realizes he has room to improve and all this stuff, and he's like, and basically they're just like, we trust you 100%. We'll allow him to live there. And most of the interactions with the parents go like that. But the interesting thing about that one afterwards is Bakugo comes out and asks All Might, what is Deku to you? And All Might has to respond just saying, he's one of my students, just like you are. And he's just like, Bakugo's just like, that's not the answer I was looking for.
Nah.
But whatever, you don't have to tell me.
But that sparks something in All Might too, which I think it's like the stepping stone that goes towards something that happens a little bit later. Mm-hmm. But it's not just for Bakugo, it's also for All Might too. Is he's like, yeah, he's a student, just like you're my student, and then you're just like, yeah, that's right, you are my student. He is my student. So he starts to think, well, all these kids are his students now, right? This isn't just about helping Deku, it's about helping everybody.
Exactly.
And Eraser is like, yeah, finally you get it. Which I thought was really, really cute, where it's just like, yeah, no, like, if there's one thing that Eraserhead has figured out, like, it's like through his stupidities, it's like, yeah, no, that's what we've been talking about all this time.
Exactly. And then we get to the last of this, which All Might does alone. Eraserhead doesn't join on this one because he's like, I'll take care of this one myself. And of course, he thinks this one's going to go swimmingly, and it doesn't. Because late in last season, in the last episode of last season, Deku's mom basically said, I can't do this anymore. I can't be worried about you all the time. And this is her putting her foot down and saying, no, he's not going to live in the dorms. He'll go to another school.
I'm not putting him, I'm not going through that. I can't.
And she say things like, how can I entrust you to protect my son when there's literally villain attacks all the time? And bringing up good concerns that a parent should have. Like, out of all the parents, she seems to be the one that's like the most being the most parenty about it. And I think the other thing about it too is that it's not just that these villain attacks are happens, they're allowing, in her mind, they're allowing Deku to hurt himself when he knows he shouldn't be. Like, and
Yeah,
Deku
well,
even comes in and
that's
says,
her biggest concern. She's actually not as much concerned about the fact that he's in danger.
yeah,
It's the fact that the danger is making him be a dumb teenager.
and Deku even steps in and be like, well, Mom, it's my fault because I was the one who went past those limits. And she's like, well, the teachers should be there to stop you so you don't get that far.
Yeah,
And
they're supposed to
not.
protect you so you don't have to do that until you're ready.
And they're obviously not. And she's, and she's like, no, he's not going to UA anymore. He'll go to another school. I don't want my son to, kill himself trying to, make this dream of his a reality if it means it's going to hurt him. And I think the only thing that really turns it around is Deku goes and gets the note that Kodo wrote for him, basically saying, say thanks for saving me and whatnot. And Deku says, you know what, Mom, it doesn't matter what school I go to, I'm still going to be a hero. So whether it be UA or anywhere else, I'm not giving up on this dream. And that's where basically, All Might has to get down on his hands and knees and basically beg to let Deku go to the school. And she said, and basically she's like, don't risk your life for it. Be around so you can actually teach him a thing or two. And she lets him go.
Yeah.
She's pretty strong for doing it too.
It was one of those things where it brings some feeling of understanding that, yeah, not everybody's just like, yeah, go get him, son, like every other anime sort of does. But in the end, it wasn't I really would have preferred it if she just stood her ground and said, no, he can't. And he has to come to grips with the fact that he's just not going to be at UA, because it's one of those things where it's yeah, he'll be under All Might's tutelage. He believes that's well, I'm the one that can help him the most. Because I'm the one that gave him the quirk. He actually admits to his mom too during that he's the reason why.
He didn't necessarily tell her that he has my quirk. He says, I've chosen him as my successor, and that's the extent that they get to. He doesn't reveal that.
Oh, I'm fairly sure his mom's figured that out.
Yeah.
At this point, because her son was quirkless for years. That's one thing I do like about this universe is not everybody's goddamn stupid. Holy cow, I hate these things that happen all the time where stories have it where the characters are like, what? That's possible? And you're just like, yes, it is. Oh my god, stop.
And it's one of those things where just going back to Naruto, they know once those kids get out of the academy, they're going in squads and they're going to be on missions where they could potentially get in danger. The parents already know that. So if they wanted to stop their kids from being if they wanted to stop their kids from being ninjas, they would have done it before they went to the academy. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure there's a non-ninja school in Konoha. You know what I mean? So it's so that's another difference, is that this is a specialized hero school. I mean, this is a specialized hero school, but they're not supposed to be put in life or death situations yet. Essentially, that's what their whole thing is. So,
but that when you graduate from ninja school, you become a genin. That means that you graduated. It's not like they're still in school.
But they're still,
if they're in
they're
the
still
ninja
kids,
academy,
though.
they're not supposed to be put into danger too.
The thing is, they're still kids though. You're 12 when you become a ninja. So they're still technically kids. That's what I meant by that. Not
okay. That is a small difference, but you have to. I don't know if it's sort of like comparing apples to oranges, but they're still fruit. They still fall into the same story archetype.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
I'm sure that this is the thing. Is for example, with Todoroki and Endeavor, right? His dad's not gonna give a shit. He wants his son to be number one, so he doesn't care that his son's in danger, right? He wants to use his quirk and be the best, right? So it's a different ideology. And the same thing with Bakugo's parents. They're like, yeah, it would be easy to be like, no more. Our son was in danger, and
there's someone fucking kidnapped, and they trust them still. That's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy, right?
Mhm.
But their thought process and ideology, where they see their son and they're just like, you know what, this is actually probably the best thing that's ever happened to our son. Like, he's
Mhm.
finally been shown humility,
Mhm.
right? Because he's always been pampered. He's always been told that he's the best, that he's this and he's that. Wow, what an amazing quirk you have. What amazing this, and you're this, and you'll be this, right? Whereas in with with um with specifically with Deku, his mom has always sheltered him and tried her best to, you know, encourage his want and need to be a hero, even when he was quirkless, right? Even when he was at the lowest of low, when they realized that he was never going to have a quirk, right? She still tried to foster that hope and never squashed it, never told him like, no, you gotta go to a different school. You gotta just be a normal human being, right? And this is the first time where she feels that now I need to be the mom that says no, because I've been saying yes, and look what it's done to my son.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's why I think that's the bigger reason, not really the fact that she was scared that All Might was going to put he was just going to be in more danger. It's the fact that her her adamantly telling her son over and over that he can be whatever he wants to be, that he can be the hero that he wants to be, has put him on the path of self-destruction.
Mhm.
And obviously that is also helped by the fact that he has a power that has not been properly taught to him, that his teachers are failing him in some aspects too, because they're not aware of all the situations. But these are all separate things.
Mhm.
And her belief is the first, I guess, kink in the armor, where we realize that uh all the same types of circumstances are different between different people,
Mhm.
right? Because she's always been supportive. She's worried the fuck out of herself, but she's always supported everything he
Mhm.
does. When he, like, she cried for the fact that he didn't get higher in the tournament arc, right? It
Mhm.
wasn't the fact that he had busted like his entire hand and fingers worth. It was the fact that he didn't get higher on the totem, because she believed that Deku would be crushed by the fact that he didn't win, or that his dream could be shattered.
Mhm.
And this is why I feel that this scene is way more important than what All Might did. And it sounds silly, I know.
Mhm.
I know the fight between All Might and All for One is like
Oh yeah.
incredible,
No.
and it's
And
it's game changing. But this is where
and
it really
and
shines, where you
you know what,
realize
I agree.
life is not easy.
Like this is just one of the factors of the aftermath of that battle.
Yeah.
So this is just, in the grand scheme of things, you could say this is a very small factor technically, it's um because in this case it's just, about whether Deku's going to be allowed to continue to go to school or not. The bigger factor being the planet's just like Earth's just like, what do we do now? We got no All Might. And that's
And
kind
that's
of
the
what they're
thing, and
pushing
that's
for
what
the
she makes
future.
All Might promise
Mm-hmm.
her, that if he ever dies and he can't guide her son, that's it. His heroics are done
Mm-hmm.
in her eyes.
So eventually she does agree, as we said, and he's allowed to go to the school. The next thing with that is that the dorms are built, they're all there, and they have a discussion with Eraserhead basically right away, where he's like, except for a handful of you, I should expel all of you right now. Because none of you, not only did a bunch of you go to try to save Bakugo, which we told you no, don't do that, leave this to the pros. None of you told us this was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So Eraserhead just basically makes it clear, you've lost our trust. So if you want to earn that back, you better work your asses off, because we're not messing around anymore. And of course, right after that gloominess, Bakugo decides to turn Kaminari into a stun gun and become an idiot, and then pay back Hiroshima for the goggles he bought.
Yeah.
And then Hiroshima just goes, "All right, dinner's on me." Immediately.
But in classic bully fashion, he stole the money from somebody else.
Oh, he didn't
Yeah.
steal it from Kaminari. He actually says in the dub too that it's in the sub too, but I missed it. That he's like, Kaminari's like, did you just steal? Or no, Kirishima's like, did you just steal this from Kaminari? He's like, no, I withdrew it. He didn't steal. A lot of people thought that they're like, did he steal that money? I think it was Crunchyroll's translation when the episode first came out, because they have to get these done so quickly. Sometimes they're rushed. So I think that's why a lot of people were confused. But I've seen other fan subs of it, and in the dub, they clearly make it that, I didn't just steal this money from Kaminari. I got it, withdrew it myself to pay you back. And the whole Kaminari thing was just to make people, just to lighten the air, because Bakugo read the situation. He's like, well, this is depressing. So he's like, well, how do I make this? How do I fix this? Well, I know that Kaminari becomes an idiot when he uses up his power, so I'm just going to make him an idiot for a while and make everybody laugh. And it works on Jiro, obviously, because those two.
Oh yeah, they're conjoined at the hip. They're a couple, whether they like it or not.
Now kiss.
Now kiss.
But yeah, so the dorms. And we get to see all their rooms, which is interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Everybody, like, who do they don't see? They don't see Bakugos.
They don't see Bakugos. They don't see Frappies because she's quote unquote not feeling well. And they don't see Minetta's because they're like, let's not.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite one. For like, you know what? We shouldn't. Because he should not exist at all. So why bother showing anything about him? I have a big hatred for that character.
Yeah, I know.
But so we'll move on quickly to the Froppy thing, because it's really important. I found that a lot of people misread why she was upset. And I'm just like, no, like, she was upset that she didn't go with them. That she was the one. She felt that they would look down upon her for not going with the idea to save him. The idea that she was willing to tell and call them villains when they actually went and saved Bakugo. Like, she was so frightened by the idea that she had hurt her friends in a way that could do something against that. And it's I think that for me personally, it made her character hop up way up in the list of people. Because I've liked her character, but I've never been like, oh, I don't see, like, other than the quote unquote fetishness of it, I guess. I never really thought that I always thought that she was just the character that pointed out the obvious. She was just one of those, like, smarter than she looks, like, she knows how to use her quirk. She is very adept. She, like, I guess the idea is she's an amphibian, right? So she should be well adept in everything. Where her flaws are very, very minimal compared to a lot of the other people that are in. Whereas in this actually showed proper vulnerability for her. It's the same reason why her filler arc was so interesting for that filler episode with her, because it actually characterized her more than just the character type that she's supposed to be. Or what you would normally see in anime. And the fact that people are like, oh, she's crying because, like, she was so worried about them. And she's like, no, it wasn't about worry. Yeah. It wasn't about anything. It was about the fact that she labeled her friends villains.
Yeah, that's the thing. The only thing she was worried about is that, she had basically said something, that could be taken in a context that she doesn't agree with. Like, she didn't think about it before she said it, kind of thing. Yeah. And that's what she was worried about. And that's like, and I think it's funny because the characters, like, didn't even consider that. So she's kind of like she overthought it. But that's sometimes what happens when you say one thing and then, like, these are kids. They probably have anxiety. They probably think, like, the voices in their head are probably telling them, like, you just said they were all villains and all this stuff. And that's probably what it is. I don't know, maybe Froppy has anxiety. It wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me. This is 2018 of course. So, but basically that entire thing, and Ochako's there too, because she's just like, we've all actually been feeling,
Yeah. That we
gloom
should
about the
have,
whole
like,
situation.
what we did was wrong, but we know it was right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, that's that feeling. That's why Ochako, like, comforts her and says, like, yeah, we feel that. A lot of us felt that way, but at the same time, you did nothing wrong. You pointed out the fact that is the fine line that we have to walk, not only just as people, but as heroes too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this is not a new concept. This was the same concept, and I hate to bring up another superhero thing, but like the Avengers and Civil War sort of brought that to the forefront, right? Is the fact that the government should regulate what superheroes or metahumans or whatever you want to call them do, because if you don't, then there's free reign to just cause destruction and kill innocent people.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, Steve Rogers, Captain America's
don't go too far into it, because I haven't seen it.
I know. I know, but just his ideology is like, well, we shouldn't have a restriction on who we get to save.
It's like,
right?
That's why like something like the hero system in One Punch Man works so well, because they have ranks. It's all, government managed and stuff like this, and they know who each hero is. And in the world of My Hero Academia, same thing. Anybody who wants to be a hero has to register with the hero registry. Whereas something like the Avengers, who do they answer to? Like, the government? Which government? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but like, just to think about that for a second, though. Like, imagine you had the ability to put out a fire, that you had water hands.
Yeah.
But you're not a registered hero. So you have to fear the repercussions of the government saying, you shouldn't have put, like, thank you for putting out the fire, but it's time to go to jail because you used your quirk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a big thing that we need to, that sort of, I guess it's the same concept of stealing a loaf of bread to feed your family, right? You're starving family. Mm-hmm. You're saving them, but you're also breaking the law. It's that same concept that is just part of our ideology, our universe. And to have such strict rules like that, it will cause this type of things to occur. And that's the thing, is they ultimately were villains according to the law. They used their quirks without registration, without this, so to save Bakugo when they should have left it to pros, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the teachers of UA understand that. They understand. This is why Eraserhead doesn't just expel them. He's just like, no, not only does he have to protect them because they seem to be the giant target of the Society of Villains, but also the fact that there was this gray area that All Might may not have been able to beat All for One if he was worried about Bakugo. And that's this gray area that is always, I find, is the most interesting thing that happens in comic books, in stories, that we have to, and it's justifiable cause, right? That everything is a shade of gray rather than black and white. Because if we just deal in black and whites, then that's the thing. And I like the fact that Tsuyu has that moment where she realizes that she treated her friends in a black and white manner and didn't realize and felt that in that essence that she had really just betrayed her friends. Even though they don't see it that way, she still feels that way, and she's justified to feel that way and be sad. And it's up to her friends to say, you know what? We never thought of it that way, and we understand why you're upset, but we don't hold it against you. Right? That's why she wanted to talk to all the people that had gone out there, and obviously Ojiko was there too, because she was on the fence too. But the only difference for her was the fact that she remained silent, which is what 90% of the world does in these types of situations, right? Mm-hmm. Some sort of injustice happens, and they have no words. They fence sit in a small sense because it's easier just not to speak up and do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really powerful moment for a character and just in the story in general. So yeah, like kudos to that, to take that extra mile to have the kids do it, not an adult. It's not like Eraserhead or fucking Present Mike just showed up and was like, this is how you're supposed to feel, yada yada yada. No, it was one of their peers, and you see it in Deku's face at the end of that, where he realizes the gravity of what was going on and how he needs to be better for his friends, and that the world is gray. It's not black and white.
Exactly. And then right after that, they end up going back to class. But can we talk about I know we're taking our time here, but can we talk about just a couple of the rooms they show?
Oh, sure.
Like, just for example, like one that I just want to bring up is Crowboy's room. It's like a preteen goth's fantasy. And even Kirishima picks up one of the things, be like, "Oh yeah, I had one of these in middle school." And he's just like, "Oh God, please leave."
And please don't touch everything.
And then there's like things like there's things like Todoroki's room, which is very Japanese. They're like, "How did you have time to do all this?" "I worked all day." And the entire episode, he's like, "I'm tired. Can I go to bed?"
Yeah, because
that's the extent of his character at that point. And then you've got someone like the rich girl whose bed barely fits in the fucking room.
Yeah, Momo. Yeah.
Fucking Momo.
Well, I just had so much in my room, and I thought I had more space.
But you know what I thought was dumb? Who won the competition? Just because fucking, like, what's his name had cake?
Oh, right, yeah. Sugar Rush. He was like, oh, I have the, like, all his room had was like, it had a bed, it had a thing, but it also had like this kitchenette, where he made, and his room smelt like amazing because it was like donuts and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? When it comes to sweets and ladies, it makes perfect sense that he wins. Even the guys were like, this is amazing.
Actually, my favorite room was Jiro's. Because I was like a punk rock kid in high school. So that would have been my dream room. The room that she has, and she's kind of like a punk rock chick. So, she's kind of become one of my favorites. I like Jiro. Also because she fucks
Mina's room was really neat too, because it's just like, man, like her room is loud, obnoxious, and it's like, and it's just like her character.
It's tacky as fuck, and then she makes fun of Kaminari for the same shit.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess like her costume and everything too. Like this is also someone pointed this out on Twitter, but her friendship with Ochako, which is so like, it's not like a focus at all, but you see them in all types of scenarios where they have just some of the coolest, nicest friendship, the two of them. Like, it's not played up or anything, but you can tell that they are like best friends in the dorms. Where it's the same thing with like Bakugo and Kirishima, right? Is like, oh man, like these characters that don't have a lot of screen time, but you can tell that they've become very close to the people that they have become close to without telling me, see, this is Komoshida. He's Bakugo's best friend. They don't do that, and I love that about it.
I also love, like, when they all see Deku's room and it's just full of All Might stuff.
Makes sense. And then none of them are surprised.
And Deku's just, like, embarrassed. Please don't look at my stuff.
Don't look at my stuff. It's like, oh man, this is limited edition.
Don't touch that! But yeah, that's basically what I want to talk about that episode. So now, on to the next part, which is them continuing to work on their quirks, but also come up with ultimate moves and adjustments to their costumes. And this is where Deku really has to think, because he's just been told by a doctor that he shouldn't be, stressing out his arms, because if he does, what he did again, they're not going to be usable anymore. He won't be able to use his arms or his hands or whatever. So they're all trying to think of interesting ways to make moves, and I feel like Deku has the hardest time, because he's like, this entire time he's just like, well, what the fuck do I do? Because it's just like, I punch things. that really hard.
Okay,
That's my
man.
power.
Okay, this is super stupid. I understand. I understand. It's like, how am I going to be different than All Might? Well, All Might punches everything. I'll kick
I
everything.
love that with the
Oh my.
realization he gets the "my brain is so full of fuck" image, like look on his face.
Yeah.
But before we get to that,
Oh,
we run into fucking what's her name from the last season from the
oh
support
man,
course.
she's like my favorite. May is my favorite. Like not main
Mm-hmm.
character. Like not. I guess she's my favorite non class 1A.
Mm-hmm.
May is fantastic. Yeah. And she works with Power Loader to make everybody's equipment and everything. Like she's so good now that they just like have her working for the school to make uniforms.
I love when she
Or
bursts.
I don't know if they actually have her. It's just like she just is always there, and Power Loader is just like, I have to deal with this.
I love that when she bursts through the door and lands on Deku, she's just because she's wearing like a loose tank top. There's just like in the Japanese, Deku's just like oh, and then like it cuts to Ochako. She's like pie, and then I love it in the dub. It's good too. She's like she's like boobs. It's but it's like it's funny because we get to see more about her and actually how productive she is. And then she gets really handsy with Deku.
Oh yeah, because she like just, and it's nothing sexual. It's just like she's like, I need to know what the specs of your legs.
I love in the dub they're like ooh, she's like ooh nice muscles and he's like could you stop. And
low key, my second favorite character, just because of like, I love characters that have just like, they're unashamed of their quirkiness and they like lean into it hard. And they're kind of oblivious to it as well.
Their
It's just one of
quirkiness,
those
you
things.
say?
Yeah. But you know, like she ends up making his leg bracers to help amplify his power without but with being shock absorbing as well. So they reduce the amount of damage that his legs takes from the recoil.
Also, can we just talk about what he calls his new fighting style? He calls it shoot style. What are you shooting? You're kicking. I guess shooting a soccer ball? Like kicking a soccer ball?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be very similar to that. I can't remember. There's more of a reason on shooting, because I'm like, there's something in the back of my mind that's scratching my knowledge of the idea. But yeah, but really that's what he is doing. Like the idea is not to really just like, you know, be fast Muay Thai kicking or anything like that. It's more along the lines of quick kick movements that knock them off balance. The idea is he wants to get them into the air so then he can do whatever he needs to do, right? So leg sweeps, other things like that, which work within soccer or European football. Football. But like that's I think where they are sort of going for.
I guess, yeah. One thing to note too with his upgrades to his suit, he now has tensors for his arms, which I'm sure like we haven't really the only time we saw him throw a punch within the rest of the season was in the last fight, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But the fact that he has those is probably good for his arms, and actually. It's funny now that I've seen the movie. I'm not going to say what it is, but when you see the movie, you'll know like what I'm getting at because they bring that up in the movie too. So, so like not only does he have these super cool like metal shoes now, but now he has these better bracers for his arms. So probably has less strain in his arms when using them. And it's funny because he actually gets. Later on, not too much later on in the manga, he gets another upgrade to his stuff, but I'm not going to talk about that now. And I just think it's interesting seeing.
One little thing to note with his suit is Mai does bring up the fact, she's like, you know, I could do a lot more with your upper body and other things if you drop the jumpsuit. That we had created a proper full costume for you. And he actually states, he's like, well, I don't really want to get rid of the jumpsuit because my mom came up with the design and it's very important to me. And what I really liked was May was not calling him stupid or anything. She's like, "Oh, that's a good reason," and then just like continues on. You're just like, "Wow, that's refreshing." It's not like someone being like, "Well, its integrity will destroy your core or whatever." No, it's just like she's like, "Oh, that's a perfectly good reason. All right," and just moves on. I'll work around it. I love it. It's great.
Probably what I'm thinking is she probably reinforced like the like material with like flame retardant material or something like that. Like I feel like she's crazy enough that she would do something like that.
She just works around the specifications, and that's why Power Loader doesn't kick her out of the lab, because clearly she's not supposed to be here. But all these inventions that she's made have been really beneficial to everybody. So you know, and she works great under pressure. So I can't just kick her out.
Exactly.
You're just like, yeah, that's good.
So
I like that idea.
So the time finally comes that our class 1A is going to be taking their provisional licensing exam. Something you don't do usually until the second year of high school, but they feel they're ready to do it now, probably because of all the crap they've had to do. And we finally get to meet other schools, which is interesting. The other thing interesting too is Class B is not here because they don't keep the classes together, so they don't have advantages. So
yeah,
they're doing.
They have their own. They have their own, like tests somewhere else.
Which also kind of sucks really because we don't get to see any more Class B, which they got in the shaft, and I wish like we could see a little bit more. But
that's what I hope. If there were going to be any filler, I would want it to be about Class B.
Exactly. But it's funny you mentioned filler because we'll get back to that in a moment. So one of the interesting things is we get to meet the other schools, and one of the things that's interesting is one of the schools, the teacher is Joke, one of the a pro hero who has the ability to cause people to uncontrollably laugh, and it doesn't apparently work on Eraserhead. The first thing she says to him, be like, "Eraserhead, marry me." He's like, "Not a chance."
I think she actually likes him though.
Oh, she does.
That's probably one of the reasons why.
She does.
Like, man, I make everybody laugh, but you, I can't make laugh, and that makes you incredibly sexy.
She wants that quirkless D.
Yeah.
Or that quirk removing D. Yeah, stare into my eyes and remove my quirk.
Yeah. Some of the lines in Japanese, and I've seen some of her English dub lines too, and I'm just like, man, they had a lot of fun with that.
Also, just something to mention, the voice actress, she also plays 18 in Team 4 Stars Dragon Ball Z Bridge.
I remember her as Shudo Ranmaru. Yeah. I actually know her, which is really neat.
Yeah.
I voiced in a couple of things with her. I've spoken to her a couple of times, but It's just one of those things where it's great to see people in our bridging sphere / fan dubbing sphere.
They grew up so fast.
Has hit the big leagues.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't know Howard was in shit. I found out watching a YouTube video about this new show that Howard's lead. I'm like, wait, what? For those like Howard Wang, who we know as Taxorcist, but like he's in shit. I'm like, holy crap! Like it's. I almost feel like a proud dad. That's what I feel like. I'd be like,
yeah, it's just like it's one of those things where people, when we first started our voice acting, I mean, we're getting a little off track here, but really, I saw it as a hobby.
I always saw it as a hobby. Like I do paid voice stuff on and off, but it's really like small stuff like games and whatnot, and it's not anything substantial. I don't talk about it a lot because I don't get a lot of jobs for it, and I just keep it on the DL, to be honest. So, like, if Funimation came to me with a contract, I'd consider it, but it wouldn't be like something where I'm going to move to Texas and do this because I have a career. So,
and that's the thing is like I always looked at it as a hobby, but a lot of our friends when they first got into abridging / fan dubbing in general is they aspired to be voice actors.
I mean.
Antfish, Anthony, like he was one of those people too, and to see that come to fruition and to be in, I mean, obviously she's not like the main character or anything like that, but still, like, to be recognized in that sense is an accomplishment. That's what a lot of people set out to do 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean it's like the thing it reminds me of most. I don't want to get too far off topic, but when Micah Solsad got Soul in Soul Eater, like that was a huge deal because he was big in the voice acting community on like the VAA and stuff when it still existed, and a lot of people knew him, and I knew him through association of other people. So like that was nuts, and it's cool to see these people that we used to, they're friends of ours finally break into this industry because it's not easy. There's a lot of competition. But anyways, just going back to what's going on here. So we meet the equivalent to UA on the other side of Japan, and they have Windy Boy, who's loud and
Inasa.
passionate.
Oh, Jesus.
I love being a hero and everything. It's cool and great. Blah.
It's so nice to meet you.
Also, fuck you, Todoroki.
Yeah, also fuck you, Todoroki. Yeah. Though I was incredibly worried about him because originally when they introduce him, you're like, oh wow, look at all these really powerful people from the other classes, and he was introduced as a first-year student too. He was so exceptional that they're like, we need to give a license to this guy.
Yeah, and he was actually the top of the UA scores when getting into UA, but he had decided not to go through. And why didn't he? Well, we'll find out, I guess, in this arc.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is, the first thing the kids find out is that Eraserhead basically lied to them, and he said there was a 50% pass rate, when it's like more like a 1% pass rate.
Yeah.
So they get there, and they're like, huh, so we could all fail. And they realize the situation they're in, and on top of that, something else that Eraserhead doesn't tell them about is that because everybody saw the sports festival, they know what their powers are. So that's why they hammered in so much time developing their quirks and special moves and ultimate moves, because they're at a huge disadvantage compared to everybody else, because their sports festival is broadcasted on TV. So they basically, very quickly, with the exception of a few people who split off, they have to stick together and basically take on everyone else.
Everyone, yeah.
Like, Todoroki leaves because he's like, my quirk's better suited for, not suited for a group, bye. And then Bakugo is just like Deku's like, stick together. He's like, fuck that, goodbye.
Yeah,
and then
he did it in spite,
and then Kirishima and Kaminari would be like, wait, we better go with him.
Yeah, well, we're his friends. We'll keep him safe. Don't worry.
So most of what happens is we get to see some of the other characters' quirk, like Vibration Earthman, who can split the ground,
Cheeto or whatever his name.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
And then Turtle Girl, who can just hide into herself. This is such a weird power.
It's Shindo. Yo, Shindo.
When I saw that, I was like, what?
Yeah. She can compartmentalize. She can fit into any space because she could enter herself in a weird way.
Yeah, that just took me off guard when I first saw it. It's like when I think I had the same reaction Todoroki and Bakugo had in their test of courage. Oh.
Let's I mean, then we have Cousin It, because he'll always be Cousin It to me.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah, this good old Cousin It. He's here, and he is just like It.
Horikoshi, that's the other school.
Yes.
Trying to remember the name of it. And then, of course, Windboy, who passes the first half by knocking out 150 people out of the test.
He's the first one to pass, isn't he?
Exactly. Check how passionate my wind is!
Oh, man. But he's not suited for groups either, because he has to... His quirk is incredibly loud and vivacious, like he is.
But it's really cool getting to see most of the UA people use their new ultimate moves, and see things like the dark shadow armor thing for Crowboy. That's really cool. And things like Pinky's super acid blast thing.
Acid spot where she's able to deflect and throw it properly this time, where she makes like a boomerang, like a veil of acid, which is really neat, which blocks almost anything.
So because of Earth treading Vibration Boy, because of what he did to the area, it breaks them off into groups. Deku actually ends up being stuck by himself. And he runs into one of the Horikoshi people that Mrs. I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt.
Cammy.
Yeah. And she's just like getting really close with him and really like handsy. And she, hits one of his targets, because they have all these targets that if they get hit in each target, they fail basically. But they have to hit 3 targets to win, to pass.
Well, no, they have to take care of 3 people.
Yeah, they got to knock out 3 people. Right,
which means knock out all of their targets. Now, you're still in the game if 2 of your targets are hit and you have 1 left.
Mm-hmm.
You're not out unless that final target turns red. They have to take out 3 people to qualify a pass.
Yeah. So Deku gets away from Cammy and then ends up getting stuck with a lot of the other classes or the other schools people, and Uraka shows up and she falls or something. He rescues her, and when he thinks when they're safe, she goes in to hit one of his sensor things, and she slaps the ball away, and he knew right away that it wasn't her.
Yeah.
Instead, it was...
She would have made herself float. He wouldn't have had to catch her at all.
Exactly. Instead, it was Cammy. Or was it? Dun, dun,
was
dun.
it? Dun, dun, dun. Well, we that doesn't happen until the end.
I actually spoiled that for myself because I wanted to look up. I was like curious, what is Toga's quirk? And then I'm like,
that ruins it. Yeah.
I'm like, well,
because that was something that I didn't like. The way that she was acting around Deku, I was just like, obviously her classmates were like, she's not acting the same. So I was starting to suspect that she wasn't who she was supposed to be. And then when it revealed as Toga, I was like, oh, that's a quirk. But I wasn't like shocked that it was her. It was more along the lines of, so that's what her real quirk was.
Yeah. And then, of course, when I read that, because I looked up a wiki, I shouldn't have done that. And I knew this was also another thing that my friends were like, you know something. I'm like, yep. I'm not telling you, though.
Everybody just wants to touch Deku's junk. Jesus.
Maybe.
Super
like,
simple.
fuck. Like, he's gotten... a few girls have gotten handsy with him this season. That's all I'm saying. So anyways, like, Tape Boy shows up, and she, like, leaves, because there's no way she can fight all of them. And they make a big deal about seeing her naked, even though she wasn't naked. They did this weird color thing with her body.
Well, yeah, because she was made of mud. Yeah. Right? So it's like, she's molding herself, but because it was just mud, technically you saw her naked. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like, if you really think about it, Toru, the invisible girl, we're seeing her naked. Because when she wears clothes, you don't see through the clothes, right? So when she's in her quote-unquote hero outfit with the gloves and the boots, she's naked.
I know, and Eraserhead's going to have to be really careful.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, he, like, erases the entire class's quirks all the time, but we never get to see what she looks like.
No. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, would we see her?
I think the thing is like, it's stated somewhere that she's the most attractive girl in Class 1A. But of course she's invisible, so we'll never know what she looks like. Yeah,
but see, that's the thing, is like, she doesn't turn her invisibility on and off.
Yeah, it's just
so
on.
When he looks at someone like, I'm just trying to think of somebody that, like, if he looks at Mina, she doesn't turn into a regular girl.
No.
She's still pink. She just can't spurt acid.
Yeah.
So, is her quirk invisibility, or is it just part of her body, or body chemistry? So even if he erased her quirk, she would still stay invisible because it's her body.
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer, but
that's the hardest question. Like, and that's one of those, like I said, now that the veil of shaded glass of wow, sparkly new anime has come off, I'm just like, You know, there's a lot of things in this world that only make sense if you don't really think too hard about it, right? Like physiology, like a guy that turns into a walrus. That's his power, that he's a walrus. Okay? So if he erases his quirk, does he turn into a regular dude?
Yeah.
Or does he stay a walrus?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And same thing with Froppy. Like, does her tongue turn into a normal human tongue?
Yeah, my thought would be that they wouldn't lose
Right?
any physical features, but like certain things would work. But then that goes against, well, why would Invisible Girl be visible suddenly? It's like a whole thing. It's like
a whole thing. That's why Eraserhead always gets removed from the situation, because it's like, what can he do versus what
Exactly.
can't he do? But it seems too powerful, so let's just get rid of him for the time being, so it's not important.
exactly. But anyways, a little bit of filler happens. So
we can see the Naruto ninjas.
yeah, the
Look,
Naruto
it's Naruto
ninjas.
guys.
And just to preface, because a lot of the stuff we're about to talk about does not happen in the manga. The manga mostly focuses on Deku's group, and what happens with the other groups kind of happens off screen. So Todoroki does run into the ninja school apparently, and one of the guys can make like things grow and expand in size.
Yeah.
And he has like the special alloy that can't be like burnt or whatever.
It can't melt. Like tungsten is actually a really strong metal. It's like an actual real life metal that is almost incredibly hard to actually mold or melt. You need to we're talking like lava magma temperatures, like core of the planet type of stuff that could actually melt it. It's really hard to actually melt it in a smith, for example. So however hot Todoroki's fire burns, it's not enough to melt it. And that's why he becomes, and obviously when it comes to ice, it doesn't make it brittle so it can break either.
Yeah. And he has like nails and shit that he can use to break out of ice and whatnot. So when he uses ice,
he has expansion where he's able to take an object and expand it.
Yeah.
And he uses nails and bolts because he can carry a lot of them, but he can also make them into like crazy weapons if he wants to, right? Like just imagine a nail, but then you grow it like 4 or 5 times, and now it's like a crazy, strange projectile that can pierce you.
And can I just say, like, I understand that it makes sense why Todoroki wins that fight, but it's kind of lame. Because he just, oh, look, an oil factory. Guess I'll just lead them here and use my fire. Like, they just kind of walk right into it. It's like...
Yeah, he traps them.
Yeah.
Right? And then he freezes them really quickly, and then he just hits all their buttons and wins.
Exactly.
But I feel that's designed just to give a little bit more context about what happens with Todoroki a little bit later on. That this is a breeze for him, right? It's a breeze for him, just like it is a breeze for, I guess, pun intended, for Windy Boy.
Exactly. It's a breeze.
Yeah. It's a breeze, yeah. Pun intended, I guess.
My favorite filler of this whole arc was one where they introduced where they had the group of Momo, Jiro, I can't remember his name. Froppy
and was it the hand guy? It was the guy that had multiple limbs.
Yeah, multi-limb guy. You've said his name like 6 times. I still don't remember.
Oh gosh, Shoji.
Is it Shoji?
Shoji. Shoji.
So they're all together, and they're against probably one of my favorite filler characters, fucking IQ girl, who gets her ability. She gets smarter by drinking tea.
What a great quirk.
She's like
How do you find that? How do you figure that out?
She's like
How do you figure that out?
I don't know, because she's the ultimate Ojo-sama, okay?
I know, but like, it's like, how do you figure out, like, at a young age, I thought I never had a quirk until I drank tea. It's so specific. It's like, what are we talking? Like, is it like, for example, if I put a leaf in some water and boiled it, would that be considered
It must
tea?
be like a special tea.
Okay.
I don't know.
Maybe it's probably some chemical in the tea. They just they don't really specify what chemicals, because it's like if it was like caffeine or something like that, it would make more sense because the caffeine's in a lot of things, right? So you could realize that you get smarter and smarter for that by ingesting something like that, or some sort of herbal thing like thyme or something.
Maybe she's just like it. Just when she drinks Tetley's, man.
Yeah, it's just, delicious Tetley's.
So like they've got them cornered into this building. Which like they turn the AC on, so Froppy goes into hibernation, which is hilarious and adorable at the same time.
Yeah.
They have a sniper outside, basically. And the only way they can find around, and they're trying to get Momo to use up her quirk because, if she can't create anything, they think, aha, we've got them because we've got everybody else.
Because she can create anything, so she's the wild card. Everybody else's quirks, they are easily subdued by either one another. Like they take out Jiro by amplifying because she's listening through some rocks. They just amplify a vibration through the rocks, and it just short circuits her.
They break her little amp arm thing that she gets for her new costume upgrade. Like they just go right for that, and I think they damage one of her earphone jacks.
I thought her arm things were damaged during the earthquake.
I know. I think it was
her ears that she got like blasted in her ears because she got feedback. They gave her feedback, and that made her like bleed from her ears.
Thought that. Hold on, I thought that was the sniper. Like,
oh no, the sniper took out her gauntlets. Yeah. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and then one of her earphones jacks was out of commission. Because of it. So the only realistic thing they can think of is Momo decides to make speakers and earmuffs for everyone to try to take them out with sound with using Jiro's remaining earphone jack. And it almost works, except she was waiting for them behind the door, but it doesn't last. Fucks up her shit, and they win.
Well, like the thing is they get the door open, and Shoji brings Suyu out, so she actually wakes up, and that's how they win, because she wakes up from her hibernation and then attacks, even though she's groggy, even with like she's got the one down eye because she's still like half asleep, but she's able to dismantle Psycho's thing in the end because Momo used all of her power to get out of the room.
Yeah, and the sad thing is we'll never see this character again.
No,
most likely, unless there's more filler.
She was the Ojo-sama laugh character. She had the, which I was so happy. I love when animes put them in.
Yeah,
it's so silly. I know it's a crazy silly trope, but it's always nice to have like those incredibly snooty like princely girls have that type of mentality, and she could come back for other filler if they ever do filler.
If they do,
it's just another reason why it makes all the students feel like they shine, right? Like Jiro got more screen time, like hell, even Shoji got more screen time too, and they actually do things in this, like, and like I said, it's something that is the roundabout way that Momo is now thinking. She is probably the second fastest thinker, just behind Deku. Like she's probably the smartest person, just behind Deku. Though his smarts really only come from the fact that he loves analyzing quirks and other things.
Deku's good at analyzing a situation where Momo, like, because of what she has to know for her quirk, she has all this stuff to work with to add to the situation. That's probably why she came up with speakers. Like, here's our group, this is what I can make, speakers. Like, it just seemed like the obvious idea. And the thing that's interesting about her quirk is she has to know how the shit's made. So, like, she can't just like, oh look, fucking, here's a cruise ship.
Yeah, no. Okay, she can't just make it.
Yeah, she'd have to know what it's made of. And that's the thing. So one of the other prolific? Am I using that word right? Prolific? Yeah. Fights of the first part of the exam is the ragtag crew of the Bakugo gang against Cronenberg man.
I make boogers. I'm just gonna call him Booger Man because that's what
they called
turns
it
people
meatballs,
into.
and I'm just like, this is Cronenberg's. I half expected like a portal to open up and Cronenberg, Rick, and Morty come in and be like, "All right, Morty, here we are." Oh, jeez, Rick. Look at
Now,
all
this
the
is actually
Cronenbergs.
something that I know that's a difference from the manga that someone pointed out. I don't know what it is, but when he's originally introduced, the guy that turns people into boogers, in the manga, he just hits Kuroshima with it. He just hits him with it, and he just turns into a booger. In the anime, they decided to have him jump forward and block the hit from hitting Bakugo.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really, really, like, just a little extra. Someone pointed out saying that it just adds more to their bromance.
Mm-hmm.
Is the fact that, the guy recognized that really the person that's scary here isn't fucking Kirishima. Why hit Kirishima when Bakugo should be the one that he goes after first, because he's the most deadly of all of them there.
I'm not going to spoil anything about the movie, but when like the bromance levels go to like maximum in the movie.
Excellent.
Just like I think I
want like, Predator level, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger and that other guy, when they like grab their hands and they flex their muscles and stuff. They're just like, yeah, friendship. I want that level of friendship.
Well, don't get your hopes up too much, but there is quite a bit of bromance going on in the movie. But anyways, so Kirishima gets Cronenberg pretty much right away, and then Bakugo uses his ability, his new AP shoot ability, and it works for a little bit. And then I'm trying to remember exactly what happened. This fight goes so quickly.
What he does is he damages as he's aiming and he's shooting. Obviously, he's trying to hit him, but it's so calculated that Bakugo made it so it would work in tandem with the electric guy's powers, because he's got new things where he's able to ricochet, and he destroyed a part of the wall that allowed him to get around his thing to create that sort of triangle, to create like a giant like lightning rod center.
Mm-hmm.
And his thing was he selectively shot it in certain places to amplify the bouncing power of that electric guy's like discs that he could shoot.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I gathered from that really quickly, that he had his quirk in mind on how to defeat him. And though Bakugo got turned to boogers, that was his time to be like, I fucking did. I set it up for you. Fucking do it.
And it just makes me so happy that now Kaminari has a way to put his quirk in control, because he has the same problem that Deku has, whereas you can't really control his quirk that much unless, in his case, like the stronger it is, the more like people could be, affected by it, and he doesn't want to like shock his friends. So the one thing that sucked about Kaminari is he's either all or nothing, basically, is how it's been. So this is cool that he actually has a way to use his quirk that's not going to like, make him an idiot right out of the way, but it's not going to hurt people either. So I think that's really neat. I love how as soon as also they get deep Cronenberg, Bakugo's like, it's took you long enough. Oh, man. The other notable thing I guess we should say is when Ida meets up with I Can't Stop Twinkling.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, gosh, I don't remember his name. And Laser.
And Laser Boy sends out his laser. He's like, at the top of the mountain. He's like, why are you doing that? He's like, so they're all attracted to me. You have a chance to escape. So
I want to stand out. That was the thing. Like, his biggest thing, and this is why I like when they characterize these characters, where you think that he's just the guy that no one pays attention to, right? And the reason why he's like that is because he wants to stand out. And in this instant, like, he fought for his, like, he saw Ida fighting for his conviction, and Ida was telling him, you gotta have conviction, and you have to have, your ideology, and you need to push forward. You need to be better with that type of thing. And that's what stuck out to him. He's like, I need to stand out. And I am the perfect person to stand out.
And
right?
of course,
we can save everybody if everybody's coming for me.
Yeah, and
because I stand out.
And that actually worked out perfectly because when he did that, that kind of was the signal for the rest of the UA crew that was left over to basically be like, let's fucking win this shit.
Yeah, let's win this, because if he's fighting and he's willing to sacrifice himself to help us, like, we should step up too. And man, do they ever step up? Yeah. Everybody gets a good fucking time to shine. They fucking step
up that game, and all of the UA crew passes the first test.
Yeah,
which is great. There also is a little thing between these happening. Todoroki just goes up to Windy Boy and says, like, what's your problem with me? Like, did I do something to you? And he's just like, you have the eyes of your father. And that answer's like nothing, but it kind of gets to Todoroki a bit. He's like, excuse me?
It's like, the fuck?
What?
Those eyes are the same. Your eyes are the same. Or where they were the same. Which is interesting, because I don't think he shares the look that his father has now. That he used to. And that would visibly shake Todoroki for sure.
Especially right now, because he's been so good about not letting that get to him. So
that's the sort of the last thing that happens there. And then they go and they start with the second part of the exam, which is rescue. So all the destruction and shit that they've caused, now there's a quote unquote special squad that is there. There's like the search and rescue squad where they pretend to be victims so that heroes can save them and learn proper etiquette with it. And then they grade them on their etiquette on how they protect and everything from that point, right?
You can't just attack, you have to protect.
You can't just attack, you gotta protect too. And, everything starts out quite nice and peachy. They're going there. Obviously, Bakugo gets points deducted from him because his bedside manner is a little lacking.
I just love how the people who, who are, victims that he's going to sit there wait, does he know that we don't need saving, that we're low priorities? Or is he just an asshole? And they're just like,
or is he just an asshole? Yeah, and the answer to that question is both. But at the same time, it deducts points from him.
And I like that Deku gets deducted points too, because he doesn't treat the situation correctly at first. Yeah. And they tell him, like, what are you doing? I could be hurt. I could be dying right now. And you're worried about
why are you touching me? So you're not assessing. You're not talking. You're not making me feel better. Which is a big portion. You need to calm people down so they actually listen to you.
Yeah, and then something gets addressed that we didn't really address too much of because it's just kind of a dumb anime trope. Is that at that point Uraka's just I need to set these feelings aside and focus on what's important.
Yeah, because throughout the season, she and even into the early later parts of season 2. She's been super crushing on Deku, crazy. Obviously, characters have pointed it out that she has sort of a glow. Obviously Toga did. Mina tried to force her to say who did she liked and everything like that. And clearly, she looks at Deku's back and is I am probably in love with this guy. He inspires me to do all types of things. But the only thing that I say is yes, it's tropey. I don't mind that. And I like the idea that she's you know what, I'm going to set my feelings aside. But it's not a fucking switch that people can do. And I guess maybe because they've never really focused on her again for the rest of the season. But I hate characters that are oh, well, I'm just going to have to set my feelings aside for this character rather than either addressing them with them or,
I don't
having to deal
so
with
much.
it silently.
I don't think it's so much a switch. I think it's more so that she's trying to find a way to deal with it. And
what does she say? She's well, I'm just going to put it aside. And then from that point on, she never has any moments of crushing or even a hint of it. It's as if she turned it off. It's she flipped a switch. And I think that that's not That's not
But
how
there wasn't
a
really
person
like
would
a
do it.
big moment like for the rest of the season where that could be a
Yeah,
problem.
that's why I'm giving it a pass for now. But if it like suddenly after 2 seasons it comes back with some sort of crazy vengeance, you're like, wait, what? No, you've been struggling with this, but you've shown no signs of struggling with this until this moment. I kind of wish that they would explore romances more. And I understand that it's not part of the power fantasy. It's not part of shonen. It's not like the biggest part of shonen. That's what
I just wish
shoujo is
shonen
for.
shows would do that. If you're going to dangle the carrot in front of us, just fucking do it. Like,
yeah, like holy crap! I hate to bring this up because it's not. It's relevant, but I don't want to linger on it too much. But I recently watched Young Justice season 1 and 2, and there's a season 3 finally that's going to come out with the whole DC universe thing. But regardless of that, these are teenagers in Young Justice. They're young teenagers into young adults, and they don't shy away from having these characters have romances by season 4. Yeah, it's predictable because you realize who's going to be with who, but then they, instead of it just being, oh, it's we know that they're going to get together, it's no, they are together and they actually go through the struggles that a couple like this would have, whether it's in a positive light or a negative light. And this is something that anime does, like I said, it's shonen, right? It's like, this is why I always say that the love that Naruto and Hinata have never felt earned. It never felt earned. Not saying that one character didn't like the other character or that they came to like each other. It's just you watch it and you're like, I don't understand why Naruto loves her. Right? Versus, like, I could understand if he got together with Sakura. And, like, it's the same thing with Sakura and Sasuke. Wow, this guy treated you like garbage for years and years and years, and now he's just suddenly okay. And he's in love with her, right? It doesn't make sense. Why does Sasuke love her? These are the things that shonen animes do all the time, and this is why I feel that this is the weakest part of this season, is because they dangle it, like you said, they dangle it like a carrot. They have this character going through the motions of understanding that her relationship with Deku isn't just about admiration. It's not about him, like her aspiring to be like him. It's her falling in love with him. And then she flips the switch and she's like, "Oh, okay, I'll just put it aside."
And it's one of those things that I'm just like, I know that that's not the point of the show, but that's another dynamic you can add to the show by giving these characters like a relationship like that. But shonen shows don't do it, and I have no idea why they don't. And I don't know if it's because like it's a kids demographic and young boys will be like ew cuties, but like ew cooties or whatever. But it's like you don't push in that direction if you're not going to do anything.
Yeah, it just feels like a wasted potential, right? Like, I'm totally cool with a dynamic of like 3 to 4 seasons to really flesh out a proper romance, even on one side. But man, imagine it be a non-cliche. Like, this is something interesting that happened in another anime of this season, whereas a character had feelings for another boy, and though it made her worry about like her future in the sport and everything like that, she eventually confronts him about it, and it either changed. It's like, you could say it changed her perspective for the good, where she thinks, oh, well, maybe my love for you is really just the fact that you love the sport that you play, right? That it's more of an admiration than love, or it's you as the person or the individual, and we should take steps towards that. Where that confrontation doesn't have to lead to them being a couple, but it can also strengthen the resolve of both characters. Where he's like, I am an inspiration to her, or she loves me because of the person that I am, so I need to meet those expectations or rise above them. And for her, it's the same thing, right? Is who am I? Am I just like a lovesick puppy, or do I want to take that next step to walk beside the man that I aspire and love, right? And I think that's at the core of both Ochako, and the same thing with Sakura too, right? It's like these characters want to walk beside their inspirations, the people that they see the backs of, and they want to walk beside, not ahead, but beside them. And they never they never pass that threshold when it comes to love. And I haven't seen it done correctly. Like, hell, Inuyasha is one of my more fun and interesting animes, but holy garbage. It takes forever for Kagome and Inuyasha to get together, and it doesn't feel earned because it took fucking 300 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the like I said, it's the only misstep that I will really point at in this season is I can't get behind the fact that this author this manga artist is so good at all the other things, at telling and subverting expectations and telling interesting, compelling stories by turning certain things on their heads. But still, because it's a shonen, they just say, fuck it. And I mean, I'm not respecting the idea that she can't make the decision of, I need to shelve these feelings for my own sake, but it doesn't feel as if that was the right course of action, because she just sort of flips that switch and says that, and then there's no follow-up, there's no change in her persona. And I don't know if maybe it does change in the manga later on, but it still feels like a misstep, because it's just sort of like, that's it, done, over and done with. No, move on. It's not important. And I'm like, no, that's important for Ochiko's character. And you know what? I think it's actually important for Deku's as well.
Yeah.
I guess it's teenage antics,
right.
But that's the thing, is that's what happens with teenagers hormones and other things fall in line with this type of stuff.
Yeah. I don't mean to sideline you, but like, we're almost at 3 hours and we still have a lot to talk about, so we should
I wanted to get that point across because I think it's very important for her character, and it sucks that it gets thrown out.
The main important thing about this is that midway through this second part of the exam, faux villains show up with Gang Orca with his like crew of cronies are showing up as villains, and they show up right where all the
people are being saved,
all the rescue people are being it's a safe zone, and this is something they throw at them to see how they handle the situation. And the two who don't handle the situation well is Windy Boy and Todoroki. They actually handle it terribly. Like, Todoroki is it starts off good because Todoroki realizes, okay, I have this quirk where I can use the ice to block things, I can use the fire to use on Gang Orca because he's a whale. He's a beached whale, basically, up here. So I have an advantage. But Windy Boy gets the same idea that, I use my wind to blow him away. So they start clashing, and they start arguing with each other in the middle of the fight. And on top of that, because Todoroki keeps thinking about the stuff that this guy is saying about him being like his father, he starts losing control of his fire. And he's not able to use it as well as he is, because the whole reason, if you remember in the last season, he was able to finally use his fire is because he says to him, for a moment out there, I forgot about you. That's why he doesn't use his fire against Bakugo in the final round of the sports festival. Because he's not, he doesn't have the same feeling in that battle as he did with the one with Deku. So that feeling is coming back now of, I thought I'd bury these feelings deep down, but no, I still harbor some kind of hatred for my old man, and he can't control his fire as well now. And Gang Orca takes this opportunity while they're bickering, basically saying, I can't believe you two are fighting in the middle of,
Yeah, you're supposed to be working together, not against each other.
And he basically uses his sonar ability to knock them the fuck out. More so on Todoroki than Windy Boy. So they're not completely knocked out. But he also used the same ability on the guy who's been doing like the vibrating earthquake things, because he has like Todoroki and Windy Boy, he has a quirk that could cover a lot of ground. So he's like he Gang Orca realizes the situation, and he goes after the bigger players, while Deku and a bunch of other people are trying to move the wounded and whatnot to another place because they're not safe where they are. Eventually, Windy Boy and Todoroki work together, but they're so low in power at that point that the most they can do is just make use their quirks together to make like a firestorm. It actually does work on Gang Orca, but he is prepared for something like this to happen because he's a pro hero. He knows, he's going to be forced into situations where he's at a disadvantage, so he has something for this. And their little thing doesn't end up working that well. And then finally, Deku jumps in just as the exam ends.
Yeah, because he had gotten everybody to safety, and now he was coming back to save his friends.
Exactly.
Right? It wasn't to take out Orca, it was to save Todoroki and Windy Boy.
Exactly.
This is one place where I thought I was going to be really, really mad, because I knew at that point that Todoroki wasn't going to pass. I was just like, no, he's made too much sense. But because of the way that they were fueling Windy Boy's backstory, where it's like, Todoroki looked down upon me because Endeavor, was an asshole because I used to aspire and think he was great and everything. And then he threw my action figure down on the ground or whatever. I was like, I swear to God, if this Windy guy somehow passes and Todoroki doesn't, I'm going to lose my shit. And I'm so glad that both of them ended up failing.
Well, I mean,
because I'm like, they both did the same thing, but we're supposed to sympathize with Windy Boy because Endeavor was an asshole to him. Right? And that it wasn't like he was making a mistake. It was the fact that Todoroki was making a mistake. And he didn't whine about it either, which I was really, really glad about too. It isn't like he was exempt from Todoroki's failure. Because a lot of the times that would happen, right? It's like, oh, well, we understand that Windy Boy did this and did that, so he passes, but Todoroki doesn't. I'm glad that they both fucking failed, because they both deserve it. And, well, poor old Bakugo failed mostly due to the fact that he didn't do anything other than yell at a bunch of, older couples that weren't really that injured. The test ended before he did anything.
And I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, immediately when you see that, it's like, we know, like, I knew, I'm like, he's not going to pass. There's no, like, when they announced this test, I'm like, Bakugo's going to fail this because he doesn't know how to save people. He just, it's not in his chemical makeup to do so. And that will bring around to, the last, big moment that really happens in the season.
So the two top players, the two top people of UA, of the UA Class A, both failed. Todoroki and Bakugo. And then Momo, I think Momo is third, I believe. I think she's the third in the class.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the top two of the class failed this licensing exam. Now, obviously, it's sort of superficial due to the fact that anybody that was in the top 100 still can take like a summer written course and everything like that, because they're like, anybody in the top 100 is really hero material.
It's not just a written course, by the way, but you'll see.
Okay, it's not just a written course. All right. Well, there's a written exam and probably there's a practical one as well, but it's not as if they have to wait an entire year again.
Yeah.
To now they have to catch up. So there's a little bit of difference. Then its impact is not as important. Like someone the only one that I kind of worry about is Bakugo, but now about what's about to happen in the story, I don't anymore. Like when they announced that, I'm like, oh, all right, Todoroki will pass this next time, and so will Windy Boy. They'll pass during this, and I was like, oh well, what are they can do with Bakugo? Because I don't think he's capable. He's not capable as a person yet. To actually have the fortitude to understand what he did wrong.
And it's funny because that's what last season Best Genius tried his best to explain to him, tried to show him, the way you're acting is not how a hero should act. And, he only had a week, so the guy didn't have a lot of time to, groom Bakugo. But at the same time, it's like...
groom.
Literally, because of the haircut.
Sorry. Great.
But yeah, he didn't have enough time to show Bakugo, this is why you don't act this way. And I think, that and it all like the pieces start coming together because after that, when they're back at the dorms, he goes to Deku and he's like, "We need to talk about your quirk." Because something he said earlier on in the exam, after the first exam, he's like, "Oh, so you're finally making that quirk your own, I guess."
Yeah.
And Deku's just like, "Did he just?
Does he know?
Does he know?" And then they go to the battlegrounds where they had their first battle, and Bakugo just lays it on. He's like, "I know, I know that where you got
that
your
All
quirk.
Might has chosen you as his
I've put in
successor."
the pieces together." And then he's
well,
like,
he doesn't know that he gave the power to him. He just knows that All Might looks to you, the person that I admire, right? The person I admire now. He is taking you, and he is teaching you personally. Like, you're his next in line.
yeah,
And not only that, but he shows the first time ever that we've seen, Bakugo shows his insecurity. The fact that he blames himself for what happened to All Might. Not just the fact that he had to be saved once, but twice. That the slime guy that he was saved from All Might from caused all the things that happened to All Might to lose his powers. And he feels personally responsible for that. And for him to reveal that to Deku, of all people, is actually incredible.
yeah.
Right?
And
like, this is an insecurity that a person that he has adamantly tried to push down, because seeing him rise up and become, like, pretty much his greatest mentor's, protege, is probably incredibly frustrating.
And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to see this episode. I wanted to wait before we talked about this until I saw this episode dubbed. It just happened that way, that the dubbed episode had come out in time. Is I wanted to see how they handle it, because the emotion in the Japanese version is very raw, and it's very, you feel what's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it isn't in the dub. They definitely do a fantastic job, like they've always done. But this is the first episode where I'm like, I recommend watching this one in Japanese, because it just feels more. You can feel, this pain that Bakugo is having, like, because he's not the kind of person who opens up to people. So this is him opening up to somebody, and the only way he knows how is to, fight them.
Fight and yell at them, and just, like, in essence, part of him wants to acknowledge Deku, but his own psyche can't let it happen.
It's his pride too. Like,
yeah.
He's like, this person was a pebble on the side of the road. They were nothing, and now they're at it's almost like he's
level.
Like, he hates to admit it, but he's better than.
Yeah,
like,
because he passed the licensing exam, and Bakugo didn't.
And that was the straw that broke.
He saved me. Like, even though it was Kirishima that stuck his hand out, he knows that Deku is the one that saved him.
And I think
that Deku was the one that came up with the plan.
I think Deku getting his license over him was the straw that broke the camel's back, where he's like, okay, I need to address this now. Like, he's either going to tell me the truth, or I'm going to, beat it out of him.
I'll beat it out of him.
Basically, things. So, and this is the fight that I've been waiting to see the entire season, is Bakugo versus Deku, because it's one of the most emotional fights in the series so far. Because, not only is Bakugo laying everything on the line, Deku, for the first time, accepts those feelings from him by, taking part in this fight. But at the same time, we see, he's trying to, finally, Bakugo is thinking that it might actually sink into him why, he strives to be the best. And why he's trying to be, better than him. Because he, and basically, I think the thing that's interesting is he basically says, I had nothing, you had everything. And when I finally got something, I felt like I could, when I finally got this quirk, I felt like I could catch up to you and possibly surpass you. And it's basically, something that Deku said to Bakugo like several times, but this is the first time I think it's actually sinking into him that like I'm not the same guy you used to bully in middle school.
No, and I've always idolized you.
Exactly.
I've never hated you or felt that you were unfair to me, and I didn't try to strive to be better than you to show you that I'm better than you. It's because I aspired to be just as good, if not better than you, because I idolized you. And something that I like to point out, because I noticed it in the animation, is at the beginning of their fight, they're in the middle of a street, right? Both have different ideologies and different perspectives on one another. So one's on one side of the street, one's on the other. So there's a line, the street line divides them. Then halfway through the fight, when both of them realize what each other's goals are and aspirations are, they are now on the line. They're actually fighting on the line that divides the road, right? And then at the end of the fight, when All Might comes in and stops it, and he discusses to them about what each individual is, just to reaffirm exactly what each one's weaknesses are. They're on the same side of the road with All Might. And I thought that was so well executed in animation. And it's something that at first, when I first watched it, I didn't see, but I watched it a second time and noticed that throughout the fight, you actually see the progression, and that's a visual storytelling. That's not told to the audience. You just see it in your visualization. I was astounded that they actually took the time and effort to do that, because they could have just had them all over the place. They could have just had them like jumping off buildings and other things like that. But no, they stuck to their guns of one is on each, like they're against each other on opposite sides of the road. Then they finally meet themselves in the middle, and then they're finally on the proper course together, going in the right direction with All Might. Like that's crazily well animated and visual storytelling. And I think that happens in the manga, but it's the same thing. It's just like you need to show that, and you need to point out really, really good storytelling in the visual department, and not just the emotions.
And this also just goes back to their pacing. I know the pacing hasn't been something we've talked about much in this season because it feels slower paced. But this original part of the manga was like 2.5 chapters. There was the chapter where they talk about the quirk, the chapter where they fight, and then the chapter where they get disciplined and whatnot. So this was like almost 3 chapters put together. Whereas comparing it to some other shows, like they would drag something like this out. But instead, Bones decided, let's put this all in one episode. Let's give it, beef up the Sakuga budget a little bit, and because it's the end of the season, and let's go all out on it. And I think it's like this is probably my favorite episode of the whole series. Like this one episode, because there's just so much going on.
No, I agree with you on
like
that, really.
It's, and I had been waiting for this, and I was like, there's a part of me that was just like with like the whole fight between One for All and All Might, or I mean All for One and One Might. God damn it, I always get those things mixed up.
All for One and All for One is the bad guy, and One
All
for
Might.
All,
yeah. I know who they
are.
Like that was another part that I was worried that it wasn't going to look good animated, or it wouldn't look right, and it ended up looking just fine. Of course, there were a couple things that I had problems with, but I've taken what I can get. With this, like I was just like, this is the best part of the manga so far. I hope they don't fuck this up, and they definitely didn't. Like they took like all the scenes that I remember from the manga and did things with it that you couldn't have done just reading it. So
that you couldn't even visualize. Like someone did a shot, like a shot, anime shot with the manga and anime shot with Bakugo when he's with his face of anguish about feeling as if he's the one that caused All Might to lose his powers. Like it looks almost identical to the manga, and you're just like, that's like, Bones understands when they need to change something and when they don't. Now, the only difference is in the manga, it just shows Bakugo, but in the background, they did the whole divide and the split and everything like that, where you get that feeling that he is in all types of turmoil. A character that you felt was so fucking sure of himself that he could call himself Explosion Death Murder Supreme Ultramax or whatever, and that's what he thinks is okay as his hero name.
I still think I still think his hero name should be Kaboom, because his name's Kotsky. Kaboom.
Yeah.
Or King Kaboom or something, whatever. But anyways, like it's exactly how I feel. Like they just did it perfectly. Like this was like a really great work. And I also love little things that this was mentioned by somebody else that like when All Might comes in and is comforting Bakugo, the perfect amount of time before Bakugo like pushes him away, because in the manga you just see it the next panel and it's just like, well, that's just Bakugo being, Bakugo. But when seeing it animated, they timed it so that it's like perfect. So it's like, he wants that, comforting from All Might, but at the same time he doesn't.
Yeah, but his pride is still there, right? And he doesn't break away until All Might stops talking, which I think is really, really good, because a lot of the times you see characters like that and like All Might will be saying something and then they'll push away from them in the middle of a sentence. It's no, he accepts and listens to all of All Might's, him apologizing and saying, like, I need to nurture this part of you, but you also need to understand that this is not the only way to be a hero. And I think that and this is why, like, going back to what we were saying about his hero ideology, right? Is he took all the burden of saving, of winning on himself. And within these two people, where Bakugo wants to be the hero that wins and Deku wants to be the hero that saves, he sees both facets of himself in both of these kids, but realizes maybe you don't have to shoulder that burden all by yourself. If you two work together, you will be an unstoppable force. And I think that opens All Might's eyes, not only to the boys, but also to his entire teaching style, that we can't just raise one All Might. We have to raise hundreds of All Mights. Because when one of them falls, another one will pick up the slack and help one another until, everybody's happy. There's no rank. There shouldn't be a ranking system. It should just be everyone's All Might. Yeah, and I think that's a brand new way of All Might to find purpose that changes his perspective. And obviously, it's something that they can become proper rivals to push themselves to be better.
Exactly. And it's
and not in a like rivals like, oh, I'm so much better than you and you need to surpass me. No, it's mutual rivalry where they both need to give and take. And hell, they even start doing that with the idea that, like, for example, Deku gets to go back first because he's more of the model student. Not because he was punished, the Bakugo was punished more than Deku, but because Deku understood that he needed to do the work and he needed to be compassionate about the fact that he broke the rules. Though it is funny to hear, like Bakugo yelling, "Bring me your trash!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say is, like, I think that solidifies that is when they're walking back with All Might. All Might says in his head, he's like, well, now they've become proper rivals.
Yeah.
As if to say, like, I guess because, like, he never knew what having a proper rival was like. The closest thing he ever had was, like, Endeavor, and Endeavor, like, didn't just want to be better than him. He didn't, like, he wasn't, like, it wasn't, like, a friendly thing. All Might may have taken it that way, but Endeavor was just like, no, I hate you because you're better than me, sort of thing. Yeah. So,
and he didn't let him work with him, or they would never work together. Like, they actually had to be in separate parts of the city. Just because they would, Endeavor would clash with All Might. And All Might just never understood why. Right? He never even looked at the possibility that maybe I should be trying to reach out and, befriend Endeavor. He just sort of said, well, I'll just be number one. And that'll be good. I'll be the best aspects of everything.
And because of that, that's the bad side of what, being the symbol of peace is. It's basically... Yeah. You have to shoulder the entire burden, and when you're gone, you better hope someone's there to take your place, or or all hell will break loose, which is what looks like
It's
might
happening.
be starting to happen.
Yeah.
Like, because the seeds are in place. Like, the thing that's interesting about this season is it doesn't end where people think it's going to end. It almost ends with a new beginning of like what the next season's going to have, because the very next thing we get with the next episode is that whole thing with Twice that we mentioned earlier, and introducing some of the new villains, which I guess they did last season. But the thing that's interesting about it is they introduce other new characters, such as the big three of UA, which
Tintin, and
Tintin,
Sasuke, and that girl,
and
a girl,
and blue-haired ditzy girl.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like this is the start of a new arc, and they're ending the season with this.
Get hype.
Season
4 is coming.
Like
soon.
it's kind of weird that that's how they're trying to hype it up, but at the same time, it's like I see why they're doing it. So these new characters, we'll talk about it briefly because we only know a little bit about them. Of course, there's Tintin. His real name is Mirio. So the way people say, people say Mario wrong. Stop playing that damn Mario.
Yeah, the Mario game.
Yeah. And he has a weird power where he can slip through things and he gets naked.
Yeah, because everything falls through him.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the thing, is when he does that, like when he comes, like this is the one thing I didn't completely understand at first, was he falls through it, but when he becomes solid, it tries to push him out again. So when he falls into the ground and then materializes, it pushes him straight up. Like it's not like he gets stuck. It's not like he can walk through walls in the same sense. He still has to ground himself to reality, because if he went completely invisible or completely see-through, then he would cease to be able to return to reality. Yeah. So he always has to have a foothold in reality.
You know what?
So if he steps through a wall, he has to have one leg touching the ground while stepping through, and then he can, once that other leg is on the ground, then he can move his other leg. So it's not just like straight, I can just warp through walls.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? It's like swimming in a chlorinated pool. You can't open your eyes when you're swimming underwater in a chlorinated pool. Well, you can, but it's going to kill your fucking eyes. Is like, if you're going to swim, obviously, you can't swim forever. You have to come up for air, and, you can't see, so you're going to have to stop at some point. That's kind of what it's like swimming in a chlorinated pool. Like, you can't use any of your
When
senses.
He says, I disappear through everything, I cease to exist, that means that for that moment, like you said, oxygen can't go into my lungs. Light can't reflect off the back of my eyes, so I can't see, right? So he has to have faith to and knowledge and the smarts to be able to do the things that he does. And that's something that was part of his quirk that a normal person would never actually think of. And to be able to think that far in advance, and to do it, and to initiate that type of thing, is incredible. It's like, the most smart thing. So, and he had to work at that. He worked hard to be able to do that. And now Deku is showing interesting, very similar potential to him, where he's like, this guy figured out my quirk and where I was going to be very, very quickly. Now, obviously, he was able to counteract it because he could think faster, but even in that moment where everybody else just gets floored by Tintin, Deku had that one chance. And part of me kind of felt that I really wish Deku put up a little bit more of a fight, but I think it's supposed to solidify that the big three are the big three. We don't even know what, like, super shy Elf Sasuke and the girl are actually capable of. We don't even see them fight. They don't even fight.
They don't really talk about their quirks either.
Yeah.
We won't find out, I guess, till next season.
Exactly. And then we're sort of left on a cliffhanger of the world is flipped upside down with All Might, And obviously they're worried that Endeavor is now the number one hero, and his mentality and who he is probably a bad influence going forward, right? And then obviously Stain's ideology is becoming more rampant. The heroes themselves, I mean, there is that throwaway thing where it's like we have like the biggest thing is Toga got a sample of Deku's blood. Now, we know that All for One can't be passed to somebody unless the person says that it can be passed, right?
Yeah, it has to be.
So
it
it's
has
not
to
like
be
they can make another one for all power character, but at the same time as they may be able to understand the quirk in essence with like analysis and other things like that. Now, is she able to? Will Toga be able to use it to her advantage? Is it something that the bad guys can do? Obviously it's up in the air, but if they pull the oh yeah, we just made another All Might, then I'd be really pissed.
Yeah,
I don't think that's not how we've been explained on how the blood works.
I don't think that's gonna happen. And also about her quirk is she can copy someone's like the way they look, but she has to, much like a transformation jutsu in Naruto, it's just a look. She has to like figure everything else out, like personality, voice, all that stuff. Like remember when Yamato turned into fucking what's his name?
Sasori.
Sasori, and he was going through the voices, and he did like really wacky high pitched voices first until he got to the right voice.
Yeah, where like all of them were like, yeah, that's what he sounded like. Yeah, it's like, and that's interesting. Like, I mean, that just shows a level of Toga too, that she's smart enough that she's able to do it. I mean, obviously, most of the time she did a really poor job. Even her classmates, like the ones that obviously the girl that she most likely killed and impersonated, her classmates said, yeah, there's something weird about her. We don't know what it is, but she's just maybe she's just sick or something. But the hair guy raised a big suspicion. Cousin It was like, we're gonna talk to our teachers about this afterwards because she's been sort of scaring us because we haven't seen her since the end of the exam. So it's interesting to note that that's the sort of part, and that's sort of where we end the story. Like you said, it ends on a very somber thing, and obviously Bakugo is he back in class by the end of it? I don't think he is.
Yeah, well, the next episode or the next day, they just basically talk about very briefly about their little like internship thing they're going to be doing, like a full-on internship thing. Compared to the week they did, and he's back in school. So
there we go.
So, I mean,
now we have to wait until next year.
Yeah, the only notable thing that happens is Deku calls Gran Torino, ask about it, and of course he's busy on the investigation about Shiragaraki. Fuck, I can't speak right now. It's like 1:30 in the morning. But he's doing that, and he's like, why don't you go, try to go to the agency with one of All Might's past sidekicks? And that's just kind of the seed that goes, where he's just like,
he has a sidekick?
Sidekicks. And it's just like, I'm just like, we're a sidekick. Why are you doing this to me, Gran Torino? But I think, all in all, I like this season. I really liked it. It had highs, it had lows. Comparatively, I still think I like season 2 more because of just the stakes that get raised there and the things that happen. But the thing is like, even though I like that season more, this season still has my favorite episode and a lot of really good moments that doesn't make me say it's not worth watching. I'd say probably the lowest points are some unnecessary fillers like the swim meet episode or the pool episode and the love episode, which we didn't talk about because it's really something we should talk about when we talk about the movie. So, because it leads into that. And like but like things like seeing the fight between All Might and All for One, seeing, the whole, the villains winning at the start of the season, basically, and getting to meet those new villain characters. And then I think actually the weakest point of the season is gotta be the licensing exam, if I'm gonna be honest. I didn't like, as that was going on, that arc was going on, I was just like, the entire time I was just like, I want to get to the fight. Like,
well, that's the thing is that part, that one thing, you're right. It was a lead up. It was a lead up to something. Like, exactly. It felt like it was supposed to be really, really important, but it was really just a setup for what was to come.
It also, right? Like, that arc just felt dragged out. And I know they made fillers, which I enjoyed, to, lengthen it. But then on top of, having the love filler episode filler thing in the middle of it,
that was the problem with it. It felt longer due to the fact that love filler was in the middle of it.
And
they should have waited until after, but then it wouldn't make sense because of the events that happened.
Yeah, because technically that's supposed to take place before the season even begins. So, like, that filler episode that they do in the middle, like, because the movie takes place, even though it's an TV anime movie, and it technically isn't canon, it fits into before
the summer break. Yes, before the summer break,
before season 3. So, it's one of those things where that plus I felt like the exam went on too long. Like, just comparing last season when they did the midterms, those were done in like a few episodes, where this exam, like this licensing exam thing, was huge. Like, the first half of it almost felt like it was too long, in my opinion. So, and I understand why, because they wanted to try to extend the season out as far as they could, so they could meet that, 25, 26 episode, or 24 episode or whatever, season timeline, and also not have to start a new season. But I feel like it hurt that arc in the end. But I still think it was a good season, and I still think there are a lot of good things about it. And man, oh man, watching it week by week made it a lot harder to watch.
I will say that too. That Saturday couldn't come soon enough for certain things.
What are your thoughts?
At the same time, to put it lightly, I will have to disagree with you on season 2 being better. This feels like this is what I call the third chapter. I know it's the third season, but the third chapter in any book is where, whether or not the story will engage and grip you till the final chapter, right? The hook of the story usually comes in chapter 3 in most pieces of literature. Now, everybody says, oh, well, you need to bring people in with chapter 1, but a lot of people will read up to chapter 3, and I always advise people to read books up to chapter 3, because that's when you'll get an understanding of characters and who and what they will either like become or where they're heading. And the story like this season does a lot of that for so many characters, whether it be somewhat in filler or somewhat in like actual canon, that season 3 had enough of those like game-changing moments for me. It had enough of the chapter 3 for me to say, I am looking forward to chapter 4, and you've got me hook, line, and sinker. And this is what I said about the same thing about Naruto, right? Naruto had that feeling too, where, the Zabuza arc was a good, strong start. Then the Chunin exams happened, but then when the fight between the Hokage and Orochimaru takes place, and you realize that the bigger picture is that there's something even darker or something even crazier out there, that's where it gets intriguing and you want to see more. And this is the same thing. You see All Might lose his powers. You get that understanding that the world itself is changing, and it draws you in. So for me personally, this season hit all the right story notes for it to continue to be intriguing and interesting, because a lot of animes that have hit their third seasons, that's when we start saying, well, this is kind of getting weird, or things aren't consistent, or the tone is shift so much that we don't know where we start, like where it starts, like where it's going. Like if you think of season 4 of Naruto, where like the whole thing with Sasuke losing his shit, you're like, wait, I don't understand. Why is he like, he accepts Naruto at the end and he understands that he has to rely upon Naruto, and then now he's just not okay with it, and then like things get confusing, right? Because there wasn't enough establishment. And this is where this season did not only the establishment, but then also went above and beyond for us to understand that our characters have gone through some of the major parts of their budding lives and the budding parts of their story arcs. And now or the next season is to take those to the next level, to see them grow.
And just like, I know there's a lot of comparisons to Naruto, but just like the battle between Naruto and Sasuke, and it doesn't really compare the same as the battle between Deku and Bakugo at the end of the season, except for the fact that it ends with a, so what's next? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of, you know, unless you're reading the manga, we don't really know where the story's going to go at this point. Like at the end of season 2, we knew they were going to summer camp and something was going to happen. Like, I had this hunch that something was going to happen. I know, like, and with, like, season 2 just showed more, like, you know, All Might's getting weaker and weaker. He can't use his quirk for as long. I knew something was going to happen in case of that. But now it's just like, here's where we are. I'm looking forward to what's coming. And I hope, unlike Naruto, it doesn't go downhill from there, because honestly, after the Sasuke retrieval arc, that's kind of where I stopped caring about Naruto. I continued to watch it, but I stopped caring about it. And I just hope that
because and the reason for that is the fact that it took so long for Shippuden to start up.
And it's not just that, it's just like the first few arcs of Shippuden are okay, they're not great. That's basically where it comes down to. It's not, and things just got dragged out so long, but that's a Naruto.
Yeah, but then it ended up being good again, which is it's so odd. Like, once they dropped all the weird subtext and sub things, like, we could talk about Naruto for ages, but it's one of those things where it lost its way for a little while. Then it was great during the Pain arc, and then it lost its way again because Sasuke was just not a well-written character. Whereas in someone like Bakugo is a well-written character, and for a lot of people, this guy went from their least favorite character to their favorite character. There are still some people that look at Bakugo and say, no, I don't like this character because of this, this, and this, and they have a valid reason on why they don't like them, and there's a valid reason for why you do like them. Whereas if you, like I said, like, these comparisons to Naruto are big because this is the new Naruto, whether we like it or not, like to compare it to or not. This is the rivalry that we are going to be watching for the next couple of years.
And this is the thing to note, is this basically, My Hero Academia takes Naruto's spot as one of the big 3 in shonen anime. Yeah. Like, One Piece is still there. Like, One Piece is probably never going to leave.
It's never going to die.
And to some extent, Black Clover takes over Bleach's spot. But I haven't seen Black Clover. I don't know much about it, so I can't speak on it. But it very much feels like, and I think a lot of people are like this, is that My Hero Academia is filling that Naruto void, because Boruto isn't filling that.
Like, no, it's not. But not to say that Boruto's animation and some of its story plots are good, but it's the same thing. It's still more Naruto in a sense, right? It's not changing any formula. It's just continuing a very popular franchise that really should have ended with the impact, which was the final confrontation between Sasuke and Naruto. You know, do a little OVA that shows off the kids and everything like that the life has gone on and that peace is a thing. But that's all that it really needed. It didn't need a sequel. And a lot of people have just gotten used to Naruto, right? They don't understand the gravity of which Naruto actually changed how we watch serialized anime. That's why the big 3 are called the big 3. It's interesting because now we get it. We're talking about the quote unquote big three, but there is actually a big three
I know,
in My Hero Academia too, right?
That's the thing. And
it's really neat. But this is why I've, when everybody's like, oh, well, My Hero Academia is better than Naruto, I'm like, well, the thing is they share a lot of beats, but the one thing that My Hero Academia has done better is made a character, the rival character who is Bakugo, understandable, likable, and hated at the same time, where you feel justified in rooting for Bakugo, but also rooting for Deku. They're both equal. Like, comparing Naruto to Sasuke, most people would choose Naruto as the better example of a character they would root for. They didn't root for Sasuke.
And
they didn't want Sasuke to win. Nobody wanted him to win.
And I also gotta say, like, it's not just that character. It's just like all the characterization in My Hero Academia. So far, it's been good, with the exception of the whole Ochako thing that needs to get figured out eventually.
That's the only misstep. When I speak of like one thing that I don't like about the season, it's that specific thing, but it doesn't ruin the season for me. It's like a little asterisk.
Yeah. And I'm not like
really, really tiny asterisks.
And let me just preface by saying, like, I'm not saying this season's bad. No, if anything, it just makes me want to see more. I just, personally, I felt the second season just did more for me, as a progression than this did. Like, and this saying, obviously, because some of the biggest things happen in this season, it's weird for me to say that, but it's just how I feel after watching, the season. Maybe I have to let the third season sit a little bit more and maybe watch it again. Because I watched.
I'm actually looking forward to watching it all in English.
Yeah, watching it dubbed. Yeah, so, it's just that's my current feeling on how I come to it. So, but either way, that's. Do you have anything else to say, or should we wrap this up?
I mean, we've almost gone for 3.5 hours here, but really, like, I'm super stoked. I'm super stoked for season 4. Really, like this is. It's been a while. Like I said, remember I was saying earlier the idea of pop off, the idea that it made me excited to watch anime, and that is something that has been incredibly lacking in the last few years of me watching anime. Now, obviously, my life has been, chaotic, up and down, so you don't always get time to watch anime, but I've been watching more anime because of My Hero Academia, and I've broadened my horizons because I'm like, well, what else has been coming out after the half hour of My Hero? And I've ended up watching some really good series since then. And it's like, I can't stress enough that it has made me pop out of my chair for really cool anime moments.
Yeah. And I mean, while it wasn't the show that, got me back into anime, it's one of the ones that's been keeping me consistent with it. Because for a long time, I didn't watch anime. I just dropped anime. I just was sick of seeing a lot of the same things over again. And I was more getting into tokusatsu at that time. So I switched over to watching Toku instead. Now I've kind of gone back and watched anime because Toku's been a lot of the same thing there. So it's like a back and forth, but I think like just having some good stuff to watch, like My Hero Academia, and which aired today, new episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because the new season of that's coming out, and just other things to look forward to. I'm planning to watch at some point now that it's all out, Darling in the Franxx and all this other stuff that people have told me about. And it's playing a little bit of catch up, but at the same time, I'm picking to watch what I want because there's a lot of choice.
And you can binge watch it too. You don't have to feel like it's part of it. Like, I mean, I've been watching the Persona 5 anime. I've been watching 2 really good sports animes. One of them, and just to preface this, one of them is about badminton. And you're like, how could it be good? And you're like, well, let me tell you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it is amazing. And I never would have checked that out if My Hero hadn't brought me back into saying, hey, I want to watch this. The Grand Crest War that happened during the spring while My Hero was playing. I wouldn't have watched that. That was a really good medieval anime, and we don't get a lot of true medieval animes where it feels as if the world isn't just like full of big-breasted women that are just able to cast explosions
or
or
it's an
whatever.
isekai show, which has been done to death at this point.
Yeah. So this is where I leave it. Is My Hero has rekindled not only my love for shonen anime, but just anime in general. And I think that if you are on the fence about still watching it, if you've listened to us spoil the whole thing, we can only do so much justice to this thing. You have to watch it. You really have to watch, because he, like Zero here, he's been gushing to me about My Hero, and I only started watching it like 6 months ago.
And I
was lucky that I finished seasons 1 and 2 just before season 3 started.
Yeah, and I'm watching it now for the third time because I'm making our friend Brandon or Vegeta396 watch it, and making's a strong word because he secretly wanted to watch it, he just wouldn't admit it, and we're slowly watching through season 1 again, and there's just like, it's just like, as you know, as slow as season 1 is, I'm just like, I'm enjoying myself still watching it, and I'm also excited for all the things he's gonna see coming up, because he might be cynical of it the entire time watching it, but he's enjoying it too, and he's saying, this has a lot of the same things that I complain about, but it's actually really good. So, and it's one of those things that's like,
whether he wants to admit it or not, he just likes hating things that other people like.
He does like to hate things that other people like, but
yeah, I'm not saying that. So it's not a negative flaw, but it's just one of those things where when even the guy that's like, oh wow, My Hero Academia is popular, well, of course it's bad. It's really bad, and I'm going to nitpick it. But even if he's like, you know what, I'm still enjoying it, that actually means he actually really, really likes it, but he just can't admit it.
Yeah, but like, it's one of those shows that's really easy. Like, it's like just a guy at work who's like, he just recently watched Rick and Morty. I'm like, okay, all right. I'm like, okay. I'm like, do you like anime? He's like, yeah, it's okay. I'm like, okay, well, if you have to watch one anime, watch My Hero Academia. And of course, my other coworker's like, oh, I'm watching that. It's very good. It's so good. So him and I gushed over it. He's like, well, I guess I better see this show that you guys are talking about. So he hasn't yet, but I'm working my way towards it. So
this is this generation's Naruto.
It pretty much is. Like, I mean, if anything, the amount of Deku cosplayers at this year's Anime North proved that to me. I went to the photo shoot for My Hero Academia this year. When I finally get my Anime North video done, because I've had to push it back for other projects, you guys will see. It's so many Dekus. Oh my god.
So on that many Dekus, I think it is time we sign off. And if you have been listening all the way to the end, thank you. You're beautiful.
Before we finish, just a quick update. My Mega Man 8 review's out, so go check that out.
I was getting to that.
Yeah. So
I was trying to segue, Zero. You ruined it.
Well, it's just take your segue.
It's a good review, okay? Watch it. It's important. My friend made it, and I love him.
And I've been streaming Mega Man 11 on my streams Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So go check that out. And you've got stuff in the works as well.
Yes,
we're still waiting.
Actually, speaking of badminton anime, I'm doing a hot takes on that, and I had to totally find a legal way of getting the anime. And I found something good that will allow me to talk about just the ideas of making a good villain from a hero, right? So I'm interested. I'm interested for you to hear it, because I was like, this is something I could quickly talk about while I wait in fucking hell of YouTube.
That reminds me. Whatever happened to the Until Dawn stuff?
You mean the not Until Dawn. You mean the Dead by Daylight?
Yeah, the Dead by Daylight.
That is just me being lazy. There is no excuse.
Well, hey,
that is just me being lazy.
It's October. It's a Halloween.
It's a Halloween. Maybe I'll just release it on. I'll get it done by the end of the month.
Maybe it'll be released on Halloween. Who knows?
Yeah.
Speaking of stuff, things I forgot to mention, I do have my October Halloween reviews coming up. I'm doing a few this year. I should have one actually up before this podcast is out, so check that out if you get a chance to.
I will,
and not just you. I'm talking to the people.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then I have 2 more I've planned. One I've half scripted, and the other one I'm still in the recording phase. So we'll see what happens. It might get pushed down to 2 reviews this month instead of 3, because I'm kind of setting myself thin here. But I really want to talk about these games, so I'm trying my best.
I ain't doing anything Halloween themed. I gotta get established before I even think about saying, "Oh, spoopy."
Spoops.
I haven't even gone on Twitter and called myself Canadian Spoopy Master or whatever. I don't know.
Canadian Spoopsoo.
Yeah, Canadian Spoopsoo. Gotta put the spoopy in there somewhere. Or Spoopy Jutsu.
Spoopy Jutsu. Spoopy no jutsu.
Spoopy no jutsu? Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it. I'll figure it out. I haven't done that. But yeah, no, there's nothing Halloween based for me. I'm just going to be releasing. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm going to see, because you haven't watched the anime, and I don't feel like if you're going to watch it, you may not want to watch it because I'm going to be spoiled.
Dude, I don't really watch sports anime, so I'd rather listen to you talk about it.
Okay, gotcha.
And
there's another one. There's another one that I'm working on that's about Rocket Raccoon.
Let me put it this way: if I watch your thing, and even if you spoil stuff about it, I still may want to watch the anime because you've made it sound so good. That's the thing. Like I've done that before.
Also, one final note on season 3: the opening. It's made by Porno Graffiti. Just gotta throw
the first
that
opening.
out there. Yeah, the first opening. Well, there's only one opening in season 3.
No, there's 2. There's 2 openings.
Oh, right. Yes, it was the second one. Right. Yes, after Plus Ultra.
And
all right.
We have social medias. Mine are all Zeromaster or Zeromaster LP, and all of his are Canadian Jutsu, including his fancy smancy new Facebook page.
Yeah, we talked about this last time.
That you should totally follow him on.
He made me a Facebook page, so I know what Facebook does now. He did it. It's there.
He puts his face in the book.
There. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's right there. If you're watching this in podcast form, just imagine this wonderful URL link.
Mm-hmm. And finally,
in 8-bit font.
And finally, finally, I have opened up my Patreon, patreon.com/Zeromaster. If you would like to get the podcast episodes first, they will be available on Patreon first, starting from the last episode on. And
so was it podcast 14 or 15?
It was 15. That's going to be the first one that's available first on Patreon. All future major projects will be available first on Patreon. Plus, there's other rewards that you can get as well. I'm still working on a few things, but I've tried to keep it less complicated to begin with, so I don't, overblow people with stuff. But I'll be adjusting it as time goes on to make it more of a benefit. I so far have 1 patron, so that's a start.
And it's not me.
And it's not you. But
I actually have to get on that.
You don't fucking need to follow. Whatever,
dude. Like I said, this is something that we were talking about. He's like, dude, you don't have to do it. I'm like, if I made a Patreon, would you back me, Zero? He's
pretty
like,
much,
well,
yeah.
Of course. Then yes, I have to fucking do it.
So,
and I want to.
So if you would like to get early access to not just podcasts but other videos of mine, reviews and whatnot, not Let's Plays because it's just stupid to do like early access on Let's Play videos. But early access to that, plus extra things that I've been working on to add in there, such as behind the scenes stuff. I'm working on making my Discord available soon with Patreon exclusive stuff for my Discord server.
I want bloopers. I get bloopers.
The bloopers, the outtakes, behind the scenes
especially
stuff.
Bloopers with like those princess crowns on them. Yeah. I know how to meme.
By the time this comes out, that meme's going to be dead.
No, it's not. It's porn. Okay, it's never going to be dead.
Dude, the last episode of the podcast, the video version, is rendering behind me. That's how far behind we are.
Oh dear.
But anyways, guys, we're
Alrighty.
getting close to 4 hours here. So I'm just going to stop and say thank you for watching the podcast once again, or listening to it, however you choose to do it.
However you consume this.
However you consume this podcast. I am Zeromaster, and with me I have...
I'm Canadian Jutsu.
And thanks for watching. Take care. Comb your hair. In a rush. Use a brush. Goodbye.
And stay frosty.